muuze za blankets and wines. Yeah, that's your level. Malia Davis asema I'm on the road today, 13 supu, 13 bora. Hello. Yes. I'm 13. That is, yeah. 13 supu. So bakisha 10 nifike 14 bora. Hey. Let's tapatia Diamond mic because I don't want trolling on my special. So Diamond, you have been banned. We'll see each other tomorrow. Wow. Kwa kwani kama jasabia unaweka birthday gift, si kusema tu hapa happy birthday. Happy birthday sangapi? Thank you so much Jasabia for your tip. Word dako hizo emoji unajua nikizihesabu ni 500. Weka 500 kwa tip ja wewe. Acha siasa.
This is home run with 50.
Hey, word dako. So yes, mimi hii Madzayo ndo imenibamba.
I beg to move and request the leader of minority,
Senator
Justice retired Stewart Madzayo, to second this motion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nimefukuza Diamond.
Asante Mr. Speaker. Mimi nakataa.
The minority leader 2 term. Allah. So it looks like Governor Wakericho anaenda kurudi tena kazi because of this beef they apparently have with Kasongo. So they will actually show him a middle finger and he's going to survive.
Order.
Not because he's better or what, but because MPs want to prove a point to the president. Sio nini ama nini. The MPs want to prove the point to the president. So they have decided, you know what? We are going to. President amesema kwamba hapa wanapelekana ana kwa ana. Yesterday he launched his MAT, inaitwa Multi-Agency Corruption War, blah, blah, blah. Yes. He launched it. I think today somebody went to court. Nila amtaki kuja kwa mic, but I know there was a malt on corruption that was... Hebu tuone kama naweza kumka. So the office of the president is going to be the chair, and then the office of the attorney general is going to be on the secretariat, the head of the secretariat of that, what we were talking about yesterday, the corruption allegations and the multi-agency corruption based team that is supposed to be saved them. Thank you so much, Malia, for your birthday gift. Now too, I'm taking birthday gifts. I'm not taking tips. Birthday gifts only. Hi. What else did I see? Acha niende tu kwa wenye Citizen wenye wanatupatia mainstream news. You know, I hate taking news from other agencies, especially which are not mainstream. Even if I don't like what the mainstream guys are doing, the mainstream guys actually do their due diligence. So there is nothing I'm going to report on Home Run with PP that is not factual or not found in these places. Yeah. And just going to the 4 p.m. briefing tuone ni nini ilikuwa inaendelea pale. Roga on the road. Court. Listen to that.
The chief magistrate is threatening to paralyze court operations. Busia advocates have withdrawn legal services demanding for the immediate transfer of Chief Magistrate Edna Nyaloti for allegedly raising security concerns. Civil society groups, however, oppose the push by the LSK, terming the boycott as diversionary tactics by the lawyers to protest a decision by Busia Court users committee ordering one of the law firms to vacate a government residential house next to the magistrate's official residence. The advocates accuse the magistrate of undermining their work and have petitioned the Chief Justice Martha Koome to intervene.
A petition has been presented to the office of the Chief Justice requesting the immediate transfer of the Chief Magistrate from Busia Law Courts to another station for her safety and to restore confidence in the administration of justice.
The recent public attacks by a segment of Busia legal fraternity targeting Chief Magistrate Honorable Edna Nyaloti are deeply troubling. These efforts appear to be acts of intimidation aimed at undermining judicial integrity. No judicial officer should be vilified or intimidated for performing their duties with the daily.
So those are magistrates from those not magistrates but advocates from Busia who are also fighting this piece of legislature. Wameambiwa waende watoke waache kuishi kwa ofisi ya serikali. How does a law firm end up being a tenant in a government office? I don't know. They pay, I think. I know some of these MDAs have rental. So is it wrong for an advocate to get to that? I don't know as well. Anyway, request the mic. This is Home Run PP, my birthday edition. Ama meamua leo nifanye podcast.
Join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP, the home of your most valuable social conversations.
Elsewhere in Machakos,
officials of the Nurses Union of colluding with politicians to frustrate efforts to resolve the ongoing strike that has entered its second week. While acknowledging delays in promotion nurses, the governor attributed the inability by the county to effect the promotion to a huge debt burden inherited from the previous government, running into billions of
asante Goko. Hello. Diamond.
Mbona sikusikia ulikuwa unaongea?
Acha nikwambie.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to Home Run with Vitimbi.
Grandma wangu alikuwa ananiimbia. Mtu hata hizipigiwa simu aimbiwe hata happy birthday na grandma yake Diamond. Mpaka tu niwaeke kwa udaku ya vile nimeambiwa. Diamond.
Na hiyo unataka tu trust?
Gani hiyo? Wewe.
Hiyo
Usinifact check. Nimewawarn.
Sawa.
Nimewawarn wewe na Japonji. Nimewaona na Japonji, mwache kunifact check. Mubaki kwa Ruto huko, si mkuja kunifact check hapa miaka.
Sawa.
Uko poa lakini?
Na ngoja niambie hiyo ndege ya opposition leader nikuwe naifuata.
Anakuja leo?
Watu Ruto mkifuata Ruto nje ya Japan mimi wanawauliza. Hebu niambie ya Rigathi nifuate.
Ya Rigiji. Bado Rigiji umepanga.
Hiyo ndege inatoka saa ngapi?
Anafly leo. Hata mimi ndo najua. Hebu acha tuone. Anakuja leo?
Anafaa kuwa anafly saa hii.
Hello.
Ni leo. Si anafaa kufika kesho saa 8. Hiyo si ni masaa 18. Si anafaa kuwa ametoka. Ashumu hakuna layover.
Atakosaje? Eti karibu home Rigiji amekaribishwa na Joe Nyotu. Senator Murang'a.
Nimeona wamepiga mabillboard.
Yeah.
Sijui kama hizo billboard ni za ukweli ama ni ma Photoshop.
Hii ya Nyotu nimeona hata waya ya stima imepita. Hii ya Murang'a
inaweza kuwa ni ukweli.
Ya Murang'a hata naona kuna kajamaa kuna kitambi hapa chini kama kanyewe ndo kalikuwa ana supervise kaekwe. Hiyo ni Thika. Hapa ni Thika. Hii ni ile flyover ya Thika, right?
Mimi hata sijaona. Kwani mimi niko naona kitu wewe unaona?
Check my repost. Pole bana, najua na believe ni kama niko kwa TV bwana. Hii maisha ni ngumu.
I wanted to ask if you are sharing your screen.
Oh, no, I don't share screens. Mtaona vitu zingine za chudai hapa mwanze kunijudge.
It's not like we put you in very high regard that you
Hold your president to high regard. Mimi ni Mkenya wa kawaida.
We'll just move on.
Mimi ni Mkenya wa kawaida wewe. Msinizoe. Mnanimaliza. Acha nikuwekee hii video.
Kisumu County party members are prepared to receive him in a historic reception. We have been in...
Mwambie Mali ya kuimbia happy birthday. Mali ya please, if there is any day we want you
on the road. Hey bwana, yani watu waniekee birthday gifts. Mambo ya nani wimbo nitajiimbia kwa niko na
acha uimbie bwana.
Wacha nisikize. Bwana Ngei, how are you doing Ngei?
I'm good, bro. I'm listening. I'm good. I'm getting you, and I'm proud that you have invited us to this space. We are here to share. I'm with you guys.
What are your thoughts with the conversation that we are having on the Senate and also having thrown out what happened with the Mutai? He was supposed to go on a special sitting, and also it looks like the National Assembly is now not bending to the whims of the national government. Is it what we are seeing? It's just cinema. We will not feel large.
Kulingana na mimi, what I can see, and I think Ruto chenye Ruto anajaribu kufanya is a side show, because I don't think that kuna big issue, because we all believe and we all know that yeye ndiye anapeana hizo vitu anasema zinapeana. They are corrupt, we know. Each and everyone knows that our parliament is corrupt. Our legislators are very corrupt, but who is their master? It is like wewe ni mwalimu unafundisha mtoto anapita, after alishapita unaanza kucomplain. Huyu mtoto mbona amepita sana? Anataka kunishinda ni. Then this regime is rotten. That's the most important thing we should note. And I think Ruto anataka kujisafisha. Anajua vizuri, ana ground, and that's why ana try to be the messiah, to be the savior. Ana play side shows to appear ni kama yeye amekuja, ni sijui tunaona kuna corruption lakini yeye hausiki kidogo. I think we should sit down and reason together, because these games, the kind of game Ruto is playing ni the same game yenye aliplay na tukampea kura akashinda. But now sisi tumekuwa clever. Tuko na akili saa hii, hata tudanganya tena. We know his game, we know he knows how to brainwash, but we will not accept. So guys, mine is to call you. We know that all those MPs are very corrupt. We must overhaul the whole system. Lazima hiyo system tuisafishe vizuri na tukue malindas. Let us seek for election positions so that we change this country once and for all, because at the end of the day utapata Ruto akizunguka akijitafutia sifa, akidanganya watu nini hii mbili, anajua kucapture attention na akili za watu, anajua venye anaweza fanya nishike. But now we are very clever. So mimi, what I can say is that I urge you guys, let's remain vigilant. Acha to remain united. Let us talk to each other. Let us educate each other, and through that we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana Sam Ngei. Diamond, Kericho kunasemaje? Unaona vile governor anapelekwa mbele ya Senate?
You know, most of these impeachments, when the Senate sees that there is a governor that is being impeached, I'm sure they really dance, because it is about money. It's nothing to do with logic. Walikula ule wa Meru venye alisota wakamtupa. It's about money. If he has money, he survives. If he doesn't have money, that's just that. It's not about logic. That's not how our parliament or our institutions operate. They don't operate like that. Depends on how much he will have. If he will have good money, he will survive. I hear the first motion, you know, I think he spent a good amount of money. Yeah? I think the first one to be thrown away probably did almost 80. Nasikia hivyo, I don't have the evidence, but from very close sources, I think he spent about 80 million. Ile ya kwanza tu yenye senators walisema, oh, you know, the mathematics is not correct. My friend, usipotoa kitu, that mathematics doesn't even matter. So it depends on this one. If he has money, he will survive. Kama ameshamaliza, he will go home.
But sasa ameanza kusema eti hata hakuwa anajua pesa ikiibwa. Huyo wewe.
Pipi, let me tell you something. The way our parliament and our institutions operate, even from the MCA level, the votes that were done there, it only depended on how much he could afford. If he is able to afford 30 MCAs and his opponents are able to afford 33, you see, that's just that. It's nothing to do with logic. No one sits down and looks at those allegations and proves them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. I'll give you an example. When they were impeaching Gachagua, imagine they impeached him because they said he took properties that belong to his brother. Yet his brother, that is not public property. His brother did not complain. Bwana. His family did not complain. Just statements. Even this governor, you know, some of the things they are saying is that he had gone to a public rally in a place called, I think, Kipsitet, I think. He had gone to a public rally, and in that public rally, he abused the MCA. So that is one of the grounds. Is that a ground to impeach someone? If you think you've been abused, you can go to court for defamation, right? And then the court will settle the case,
Yeah,
because
sure.
now it will have the two of you. It will have the two of you, and it will decide. If it is defamation, you get paid na inaisha, sindio? It cannot be a ground
How
for
emotional
impeachment
is
of a
Bunge,
governor.
bwana? How emotional is Bunge?
Boy, it's not about emotion. It's about money, boss. If you can pay those guys, you are in good space. If you cannot afford, umachako kimotoni.
But bro, to be honest, they impeached Rigathi Gachagua, and one of the grounds was talking rudely to people.
Yes. It's nonsense. It's not like that house in the hill actually thinks about those things. They impeached him for allegations that even the mover of the motion could not explain. You remember how that MP, what is the name for that MP from Mukambani?
Muinge Mutuse,
Mutuse.
aka handkerchief.
They impeached him for things they could not even prove. Even companies that he doesn't own, they put them there. And it was clear. It's clear that you are saying this guy owns this company, but we have learned that he doesn't own that company. But you still went ahead and impeached him for owning that company that he doesn't own. So one of the allegations was there was a case about mosquito nets. In the Ministry of Health, there was a scandal, a perceived scandal in the Ministry of Health, where there was a tender. It was a 3 billion tender, if I remember the figure. So what they said is that the government had lost 3 billion because Gachagua had taken the tender. It came out that apparently some company, I do not know the links between that company and Gachagua, I don't know. Some company had bid for a tender to supply mosquito nets. And they had paid and everything. Now, I think it was even a foreign company. So, Gachagua's son had been appointed as the local authority to follow up that tender. What happened is he was not given that tender. So that company did not get the tender for some reason. That company did not get the tender. I don't know what was the reason. I think when they bid, they did not qualify, or somebody else took the tender. But they still impeached him for being corrupt for that tender. That it was not his company. It was not the company of his son. It's like Pipi today has bid for a tender, and he decides to send Chaponji to go and check how far the tender has gone. Now, Chaponji goes to the ministry and realizes that you have lost the tender. So you didn't get it. But at the end of the day, we impeach Chaponji because he was part of that tender. I don't know, man. When you look at this government, you're talking about parliament as if they will think about that Senate motion. They sit there until 3 a.m. to make you think they're actually discussing it. But at the end of the day, they are not discussing it. It's not a matter of. It's not if the rigor about counties and about how counties operate was that serious, how many governors would be at home as we speak? How many? If it was about corruption, tunapenda tu sarakasi boss. Hata huyo wa Nairobi sidhani angekuwa kwa ofisi. If it's just about corruption, if it was about corruption, which governor would be in office? Which one?
Kangata.
No one has audited his county. No one. Have you seen the audit reports? No one. Is he doing things? Yes, he is. But I don't know. I'm just saying, if we are to impeach governors based on corruption or based on what, I don't know. Those are just stories, but They're just stories. Now, why then would the Senate? Why would they save a governor 2 times and let him go on the 3rd occasion? Even two previous occasions, they realized the person is clean. Why would they then let him go in the 3rd one? This is a mwizi ni mwizi too. You don't have to give him a second chance, right? So why did they, for example, the one for Meru, why did they allow her to go back to office in 2 occasions and then impeach her on the 3rd one? Boss, pesa ikiisha, imeenda hivyo. Si kulikuwa na mtu mwingine kwa mai kama tumebaki na wewe tena. Na ikifika saa 3 wanajazana hapa. You can't hata uweze pumua. Pepe bado huko? Ama umeenda umeniachia space?
Na mimi nimeenda kugombana, kumbe nagombana on mute. Nilikuwa nasema ikifika 9 sasa unasikia John Ochola join the chat. Japonji requested the mic. Bionic requested the mic. Lyson. Saizi wakati tuko watu wawili hakuna mtu anakuja.
Wanajifanya hawataki, they are too busy. Ngoja ifike 9:30. Hiyo mic hata kupata peke yake moto.
Wow, unanibamba sana. Anyway, mimi kitu naweza sema ni kitu mimi naweza sema ni kwamba wenye ukiangalia hata wanasiasa wetu wanapendanga kukuja last minute, hata kuongea wanataka watoe speech wa mwisho, and we are developing that behavior. Lakini pia niligundua kuna watu pia wako karibu na kazi, so they don't want the office people to know their what we call their political affiliation. So wanacheza tu chini. Yeah. Naona John Ochola is here with us though. John does not fear. So John, talk to us. How are you?
Hi, I'm great, Pipita, and happy birthday, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I've been lost for a while, kazi mingi, and then also my journey, pia movements up and down. Anyway.
Haina shida ndugu yangu, karibu.
Yeah, asante. Me, I don't think I've been following closely. Nimepotea sana kwa mtandao, but allow me just contribute my 2 cents on these whole legislative corruption. Of course, we know our legislature, that is both houses of parliament, they're corrupt. Yes, the politicians. There is nothing good can come off from such people. Anyway, for me, it's just a question, be thinking about it. I don't think the executive and the parliamentary wing of the government are at war. I think in town tunafanyiwa hapo hivi. It's and I think they've won. They're giving us breadcrumbs, to fight on, and there's kuna hii movie, I think it's called Now You See Me, where a magic act, you think it's happening here, but actually in the real sense, the stage has been set up somewhere else different from, what you think. I think that there's something they're working on, and probably getting pressure off themselves, and they're controlling the conversation. It's the government is they have tools. They have very powerful tools, of which media being one of them. Media is very powerful, and media using propaganda shapes what you think, because that is the essence of propaganda, to control your thoughts, what you think. They want you to think a particular thing in a particular way. But if it's anything to go by, yes, they'll not just the legislature has to be purged of corruption. It's the entire government. The entire system, and that me, I'll always be consistent on that. It's the entire system. Anyone who thinks, an individual is going to miraculously we're going to have a cleaner house. No. Unajidanganya tu. And that's one like here, anyone but so and so, anyone but so and so. Easy. Good. So, yes, how are we going to purge parliament of corruption? Because it's deeply by the executive. Parliament has become an executive wing. Whatever the president wants or the executive wants to be passed. President now would say that, and being fired. A group of people, the UD and ODM, it should tell you something. Me, I know, as I'll just go back to the point of games are being played. Games are being played here because an MP before, he's the current president. Gachagua wasn't impeached because people were offered apples and the bottles of water in parliament to quench their thirst. No, money was poured. Money was given to these people, and the money came from the executive. So he cannot come out and question his own leader of majority that how did you buy this amount of shares? Where did you get the money? No, come on, spare us the boulder. Large parliament, branches of the judiciary and the executive. That's why I said, like our institutions. If we have strong institutions, why form a multi-do whatever the thing the president formed yesterday? There are bodies, the constitutional bodies that are meant to deal with corruption. Him doing that undermines our constitutional bodies because there are people who are supposed to be. Where do we have the EACC? What is their role in this country? If the president has to form a multi-agency nonsensical things, then what is the role of EACC? It is as simple as undermining the independent institutions that have been given mandate by the constitution, by the people, in essence. So we have to. So there's nothing this multi-agency whatever is going to do. It's in a way unasemanga nile unachia sijui ni simba ama ni hyena to look after goats or sheep. That's what is happening. So unless we have a systemic change in this nation, unless we have a cultural revolution in this nation, nothing is going to change. Not at the executive level. And the only way we're going to have, in case, let's say, we don't get William Ruto out as things, stands right now, if the president doesn't get ousted by revolution, the only option we have is having an outsider. Someone whom they don't have that on. He's the only one who is able to purge the system without caring, I'm from this tribe, an outsider. Someone who has not been a career politician. But as long as you've had your hands in politics, you are tainted, and they'll always have leverage on you. It's some sort of a Trump figure. For me, Trump is. I know over time you get, they call you in, so on and so forth. But you see the kind of things that Trump is doing. He's not a traditional president of the US, where they'll come, yes, we can, and some sweet speeches. No, he will go at you on Truth Social. You'll argue out your points with him. You will fight it out when he was still active on Twitter. He doesn't care about the protocols and all. Someone so and so. You see how things are running right now. And believe it or not, you might hate it or like it, but the US has regained the fear and the respect that the US has always had in global standing. You will see the European leaders move into White House and they were sitting like as though they were summoned. by her principal, sitting her, in the Oval Office around the desk. So that's what we need, either revolution or an outsider. If we can't get those two, then ngumu kiasi bana, ngumu kiasi kusafisha corruption. So because that's how the culture is. I wrote something on my Substack article. Just allow me read before I yield. I do. So something I wrote, I think last week on Substack. I'll just read a piece of it right here. Just give me a minute. The 6ix9ine delusion or ignorance. Yeah, Ship of Theseus. Yes, this is the Ship of Theseus. Just allow me to around 3 minutes. Just begins to change. Are we defined by what we're made of, or more enduring? So here is my discourse. Theseus once set out on a journey with a brand new through the city, delivering good in passage to all sorts of people. After many years, the ship began to wear down. When he returned to Athens, he and his crew decided to replace each part of the ship, one piece at a time, until eventually there was nothing left of the original structure. Now imagine one of the crew members had gathered the discarded parts of the ship and rebuilt them into a new into a ship. Then the question I was asking, it's a paradox. Where or what is the new ship of Theseus? Is it the ship that has replaced each part, or the ship that the parts have been assembled? That's the question that I was asking. It's a long read, so I won't read everything. But I come down in the article. I bring it to in our modern day politics. So now allow me to touch on politics for a moment. Every election cycle, we say we're ushering in something new. We might get a new parliament. If we are fortunate, we get a new president. But the truth is, the system remains unchanged. The people who control the flow of money, who enable injustice, are still in place. The same abductions and assassinations that marked our early days as a nation under Otonglo the First. Otonglo the First is the name I've given for the form of the founding father. Under Otonglo the First are still happening under Opato, first of his name. 5 governments have passed. More than 60 years have gone by, but the essence remains. So are we getting anything new? We need to find out the essence of our government, where its soul lies, and direct our efforts towards it if we really want change. Otherwise, they were calling befolies of Wakanda will still excite us with their sweet nothings. Let's say we start replacing members of parliament one by one. Over 5 decades, we eventually have a completely different set of legislators. Does new parliament, if the same
Yes.
that the same puppet masters are pulling. Yeah, so that's the question.
Pepe, can't hear you. Okay.
Looks like we've lost John. Yes, Diamond, I saw your hand up while John was making his submission.
Yeah. Now that he's not here, how would I ask the question? I had a question to him. And now he's lost
Namwona
it.
kwenye panel, wacha nione kama I can bring him back up. But akona point, your story ya change, if we choose to change one by one, we could get there. But what is the risk of these ones that are coming being co-opted? Because that has been what has been happening. Kina Babu Owino, kina nani that have come. So it's co-option that is happening.
Not even that. I think about 2 weeks ago, I had asked you if the new guys who have never had any political experience are any better. You remember we took examples of the Bomet women rep. You remember? The lady was a young lady. I think she was in her 23, 24 years. Is she any better from the other women reps? Or the governor for Kericho, for example, is a governor, first term. He didn't have any money. He had zero experience on politics. He's a clean guy. Is that governor that you really want to turn a county? But 3 years down the line, I think it's been confusion, mess, and every other thing. I don't know if it is the system that is fighting back or he's just inept in his performances. So I don't know, John, how would you explain the fact that even the few that we've had and those that we could actually assume that they have zero history of corruption, they've never held public office and they've never abused public resources. But right after getting into office, they are no different from the rest.
Yes.
And how then would you
that's
stop?
the point.
And how then would you stop such a thing from happening? Because tomorrow we would elect yourself into office and then you turn out to be, or you elect me and I turn out to be like the rest.
Because thank you. Actually, that's the point that I was driving to. Actually, in part of the article, I say we have seen young and promising leaders walk into parliament only to become the very people they promised to replace. Because you cannot change the nature of a thing by swapping out its parts. If parliament is built to serve the interests of the executive, it will continue to do so no matter who you elect. That's the point I was trying to make actually from the article. That what we are trying to do is change parts of a thing and hope. No, the Parliament of Kenya has been built to serve the executive. That is its core purpose. So if you elect an individual who gets into parliament, he's going anaenda kukunjwa into, they'll bend him into what that thing was designed to do. So unless there is an overhaul, that's what I'm talking about, an entire overhaul, like tuanze ground zero.
Okay, John.
To like, hey, tunaamua tu wenyewe. Yes.
Allow me to engage you for a minute around that. So now, assuming, I think we first agree that probably this changing parts of it doesn't work. Now, assuming we want to overhaul parliament, and that means we want to change 100% of it, without necessarily changing the structure of how parliament operates, because at this point in time, the Speaker of the National Assembly is usually seconded from a political party. And the political party, most of the political parties would be owned by the people who are the executive. I think you would understand that today UDA is a political party, but is fully owned by the president. ODM, which is also a powerful political party, is fully owned by the retired prime minister. So, and these are powerful bodies. So they're the ones who would still have to choose who becomes speaker. And not just that, there's the structure of political parties in the country. So where members of parliament would be elected and a political party. And you saw it 2 days ago when they would then be called to State House and then given instructions. So there's quite a lot of problems around the structure of parliament as it is and how we actually choose our members of parliament. Because first of all, we're using political parties to choose them. These political parties are owned by, quote unquote, the executive. So you are still it will still give us the same result. So I don't know, how would you solve that? I just want to hear from you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a prudent question. So this is how I'll go about it. The parliament in de jure is an independent institution. By law, the parliament is structured. It's well structured. We have a beautiful constitution, but by de facto, the parliament, the culture. So the issue here is the culture, not that our constitution has allowed parliament to be part of the executive, to be an executive branch. No. The problem here is the culture that we have. And even when you're saying, so we have two types of culture. I think I've mentioned this before. There has to be two types of revolution. We are having a revolution to change the political and politics are done in this country. But equally, there needs to be a revolution. The people think what matters to the people. If you read Lee Kuan Yew's book from third world to first world, how he built Singapore, basically from independence to 1991, becoming a first world country. There are things he says that have to contribute to nation building. A nation has to have values. So you're saying, well, the executive is powerful and people have to elect from party members and everything, that informs the kind of culture we've built in as a people. We have a hero, hero-centric and the hero whatever culture. I know that is it's human nature. Even the US have that. Trump is more of like a hero. Promise them, I'm kicking out the illegals. Yes, but if we have a cultural revolution with the populace, where I am not going to vote in a party, but I'm going to vote in policies and individuals, then we cannot have the transformation we want to see in parliament, because we are going to send the same crooks, because our culture is built on loving the crooks. And this is the critique of Plato in his book, The Republic. Is
John.
Yes, nanisikia?
And nakusikia, I just wanted to add something else. And PP, I think you would stay out for a second. I'm just still picking from John just to understand a little bit. A few other items.
Allow me finish.
Okay, just
allow
finish.
me finish up on this point. I might forget. Kindly, just allow me.
Proceed.
End up on this point.
Proceed.
Yeah. So on the parliamentary end, so this is the problem that we have. I have seen institutions when they are strengthened and they are independent, they get work. Because I am seeing if there's a member of parliament who gives Trump headache, is from his own party. You'll see the likes of Thomas Macy. You'll see the likes of Rand Paul and his dad. Not an MP right now, not in Congress right now, but these are members of Trump's own party, but they'll shoot down the big beautiful bill. They'll shoot down some legislative bills coming from the executive because they don't believe it to stand. So that's a culture that it doesn't matter that the party which the president is part of, that I have to vote with the executive. No, I will only vote with that which benefits members of my constituency. So you see, it goes down to the members of my constituency elect me based on principles, based on integrity, based on deliverables, not identity politics because of party or I'm young or I'm old. So if the people elected me based on these principles, I think I'm going to be bound. There's going to be a Ulysses contract on my life. And when I get to parliament, I know for whence I was elected in. I was elected for. Thank you.
Okay, John. I get you, and I get the frustration that obviously we get ourselves into, especially around our political parties and the behavior that happens or we see from our members of parliament, and this conversation is really about parliament, because I think that is where most of our issues are stemming from. If we had a real parliament that operates and one that makes decisions based on the ideals and the beliefs of the members of parliament themselves, then I think we would be much better. So here is the issue. The issue here is you have political parties that must marshal support from its members, irrespective of whatever they think. And I'll give you many examples that you can also add. For example, the member of Ugenya, David Ouma, is that his name? Just check if that's the correct name. But the member of Ugenya yesterday said clearly that President Ruto has given them a lot of bills that they didn't even believe in them. But they passed those bills. The housing levy, for example, the SHA, the finance bill, and many others, including the Adani. And they had another one yesterday for the Kenya pipeline. I think because their moods are not okay, they did not approve yesterday. But they just moved it, I think, a month to September. So they'll approve it in September, either way. How do we heal this misbehavior? Because even our people at home would still vote along party lines. If today somebody asks you, assuming you come from Omabe or I come from Migori, if I get the ODM ticket, am I not just the elected member of parliament, even without an election? Immediately I get the ODM ticket, I'll become a member of parliament. Or if I come from Wazingishu, or if I come from Elgeyo Marakwet, and I get the UDA ticket, automatically I become a member of parliament. Just that. So we have kuna tabia mbaya across this whole channel, from the way we vote, from the way our parliamentarians are put together on political parties, and from the fact that they actually have to go to State House to be given instructions. You see, there's a broken system from the voter all the way to how that member of parliament operates. And the whole thing now collapses on itself. So we probably don't have all the answers. But do you think it's time we elect MPs without a political party? Would it sort it, or the same mistakes would still happen?
No, it sounds, but it's impractical. I don't want us to be it's still identity politics. That I will only elect. No, I don't want identity politics. It doesn't matter whether you're part of a party or you're independent. The point is, do you have a proven track record? Are you standing on integrity, principles? We have to vote in ideologies, regardless of age, regardless of party, regardless of gender. It has to be principles. So that's what I'm advocating for. So I won't. I want to stand on business. For me, it will always be principles. And then when you're saying David, is it David Ose, the MP you've said from Ugenya, David Okech or something? When he said that, what are the repercussions that he has faced, or he might face? What are the repercussions? We need to ask ourselves that question. Nothing. So you see where the problem starts. It is us. It starts with us. That's where the problem starts. Because if a member of parliament can come out and say the president brought up bills we didn't like, you are not supposed to like the bills at a member of parliament. You are there in a fiduciary role for the people. It's a representative democracy. So you're supposed to present the interests of the people. What do my constituents, what are they looking for? It's hard such conversations. And that's why, thank you so much, PP, for the opportunity, for us, because we discuss issues. Someone comes out and says, John, you're wrong. No, that's not right. Because I'm very open-minded when it comes to ideals and ideas. So we start from somewhere. Where do we start? Principles. Let's elect people on ideologies. We have a long way to go on getting to the point where we elect people on ideologies. Tukombali sana. Even the next election,
John,
we are going to elect someone because probably we don't like person A. Not because there are things these individuals we are voting them for, but it's a vote of no confidence on person A. So tukombali sana maze.
John, I get the frustration. Pipi, this is my last one. I get the frustration, obviously, from your statement that obviously when we get into the election, we end up voting for people that do not live the ideals that we expect. And it happens over and over and over again. It's also very tiring for you to sit and assume that it's easy to be changing these members of parliament. It looks also impossible to impeach them. You've seen the other day when Kenyans tried to impeach to recall the member of the women member of parliament for Nairobi. Look, issue here is that how would we tell that somebody has integrity? Hey, these things are difficult because even the ones that we've believed in them, they usually don't get any different. Wanaingianga tu pale wanapotea. It's a difficult choice. But my biggest belief is that probably either our morals are wrong or our constitutional structure is set up in a way that parliament is still subordinate to the executive. That's how I would put it. There are only two problems here. Either the way we've structured our constitution today, not from the face value, the way it's been structured, you would actually probably realize that this house is subordinate to the executive. It's subordinate in terms of finances. It's subordinate in many other ways. Also, there is not a lot of money that sits with parliament. It's a legislative arm, so it depends on the executive in terms of money. So that's also another issue. And secondly, maybe our morals are just too bad. I don't know which one would be the solution. Yes, you suggest that we elect everybody based on morals. I don't know how would you tell morals. It's difficult, man. Everybody before the election is they even go to church and cry. They really cry in church. And they go to every church and tell you how they are the best of the human beings that you would see. So I don't know. And morals, you can't measure them, but we can't. Jamaa akishapata hiyo kiti, they turn upside down. So it's, for me, I think there are two problems that either the structure of our constitution, I think our parliament is still subordinate to the executive. And secondly, we just have also moral problems across. That is why we elect the PP, it becomes the same. We elect Diamond, becomes the same problem. We elect John, becomes the same problem. How is it that even in 300 members of parliament, we cannot get 30% that stand for something? How is it? How is it that in 47 counties, we cannot really pull out 15 governors and say, these ones are clean men that actually work? How would it be 45 of them? They can't talk to anyone. They become rude. At the end of the day, they are running around with 7 gaslers. They cannot even be found. Like once a governor is elected, they become a different set of human beings. It becomes like an animal. Jamaa anaendesha gari 10. They can't find no. He has a full set of security guards. He has government security of almost 10 people, na pia atakuwa na vijana wa mkono karibu 20 wa kumchunga. Can't understand, but John, I don't know. It's either morals or our structure. Tutatibu moja tu in the future.
Let me see in the comment section before even I make my comment. Najua nimetoka kando kwanza muongeleshane na ndugu John. Happy birthday Pipi, thank you so much. Happy birthday ilikuwa inakuja na tip ja pale juu, sijui kama mmeiona. Wote ni happy birthday, but request the microphone and be part of this conversation. It's getting very interesting between John and my guy Diamond. Na mimi niko hapa kuwasikiliza tu. If you have questions or you have something to say, you can always come to the mic and request the mic. And also maybe to point out, Home Run with PP supported by you, the listener. So ingia pale viju ucheze kama wewe. Aya, John.
Yes, thanks. Okay. Allow me broaden this further. We broaden this discussion further. Okay, so I get what Diamond, what you're saying and where you're coming from, sir. And yes, you do make a lot of sense. How do utajua aje watu wanakuanga umesema wanaenda kanisani wanalia baba Mungu? There's a thing in economics called known as the greater fool. It's called basically it's in a nutshell, an individual goes to the stock market, buys stock at a higher price more than they should be, because he knows kuna kamjinga fulani mahali tamuzia even higher than what I bought them for. So in sociology, that greater fool theory, where people
You seem to be breaking. I don't know, people, if you are.
Yes, if I'm breaking, kuna wana shida Roysambu you go around that particular highway. So in case I break, I think I'll just have to join you guys tomorrow, because church, but ikopa mbele. Sasa, what I was saying is this: what it simply stipulates is that the people who get full, there's something in them that actually called, like kuna kitu ndani yako tu endao kudanganywa. That's why someone will come and tell you, hey, I'm a forex trader. Hivi na hivi. Kumbe ni sim tu. There's a part of you that they were able to manipulate and find out. So you become the greater fool. So back to your point, to politics. Someone promises you big, they're going to do this, going to do that. And then once they get in, the question is, do they really change? That's the first question. I don't have an answer to that. I have theories to it. Do they really change? Because there's something the former president of the US, Barack Obama, said that the US presidency does not change you. It's you to yourself. You don't change. It exposes who you are. When you're put under pressure, Israel, it is who you are. So do these people really change? That's one. Two, if they change, thinking like a sociologist here, if they change, what changes them? That everyone who gets in, somehow, there's a character they have to take in. So does it mean where they go to, they have to take, morphed and change it in and put that were not, that it wasn't them before? So there are two ways to look at it. Do they change? Or two, if they change, why is it that 100% of them who get in think in a particular way? Then what happens wakiingia kondani? So that's the question we need to be asking ourselves. If we elect saints and the moment they get into parliament, they become demons and serve the devil, then it tells you there's something happening in that building. There's a culture which has been propagated, and it bends you towards accepting them, because it's what society is. Society is just kuna acceptable norms we hold on to dear as a people. Every organization, the company I work for, there's a culture. There are values that virtual pay adheres to. So even that parliament too, there are values and cultures that it adheres to. I don't think the parliament is subordinate to the executive. It has been made to be in, it has taken shape and form to become that way. But de jure, by law, the parliament is not subordinate. Actually, the parliament is the one that checks the powers of the executive. That's what's supposed to be. But based on the culture of our governance systems, it seems as though there's a switch up where the executive checks the parliament. Okay, unasikia tu president will come out. Huyu mtu wangu huyu ukikataa, there'll be no, like when the deputy president last year, before he was ousted, he said those who want to vote for the finance bill will not receive, how do you call it, will not receive the money to their constituencies. That shouldn't be the case. That is overstepping, and actually that should be a grounds for him being impeached. Forget all this charade. But that alone, you should not withhold funds because somebody is against your ideas as the executive in the in parliament. No. That shouldn't be the case. And actually, parliamentarians should have stood their ground and said, no, we are going to stand with this particular member of parliament because they're opposing this by the public. I'll end here. Kindly, people, let me end here.
Sawa. Thank you, John, for your submission. I see engineer to join up.
Benjamin
How are you doing, engineer? Or Kapsaret?
I'm good.
Nasi Sudi.
Ladies and gentlemen, join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP.
Session is war on legislative corruption. As you know, and as I said yesterday, I still don't believe that this is an objective fight. Though I think that the question of legislative corruption should be handled very, very seriously. And I think right now, I don't know if people agree with me. I think we are in the most danger right now, legislatively speaking, because we are a budding economy. There are very many multinationals who may be interested in setting up shop here. And not all of them are interested in our welfare. And I'll give a very good example of Indonesia. They have a very, very serious problem with smoking and tobacco because in their countries, the multinationals which are involved in tobacco production and all of that hijacked their legislature and removed the clauses that would limit how tobacco is sold, advertised, and now they have a very, very serious smoking problem, and that just goes everywhere until it reaches their health sector, and now the health sector is overwhelmed in certain areas. You see, that is the problem. These multinationals do not care about anything other than profit, and when we have a legislature that can be, sometimes you hear that the money they are being bribed with 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 for bills to be passed in a certain way, you realize how vulnerable we are in the world right now. Now, I don't think that there's any way that we can we can properly, scrutinize a person before election and know that this one is a saint or this one is not a saint. In any case, there's no way to enforce that the population to think that way because, people naturally like bad boys. They like a person who has some sort of, they are more naturally attracted to, the modern campaigning, especially in this social media age, is about how many clicks you can garner. The more reckless things you can say, the more you will trend, the more you'll be known. The most stupid things, there are people who have been elected just purely because of their ability to be memed or to create to be able to create memes. It is how memeable you are. So I think right now we are in danger because right now politics imekuwa tu popularity contest. And I don't think we can get out of there unless we can build structures. We cannot prevent electing people who are villainous or who are bad, but maybe we can create systems that we can measure them up against. Like in the USA, I see the congressmen usually have town hall meetings where their citizens will ask them about the laws that they are passing. Maybe we can come up with something like that. But otherwise, I don't think that we can ever be able to screen someone, because if a person is planning to become a politician, he is very shrewd, he's very sharp, he knows psychology, he knows how to trick people, he knows when to seem strong and when to seem. So, in fact, the person who you are trusting to be to be a saint is most likely to be the person who is bad inherently. So I don't think that there's only any way to screen that. On the one legislative corruption, I think if I can talk about how I'll be convinced that there is a real war on legislative corruption. Let's say, for example, we ignore the corruption in the judiciary, in the executive, in all branches of government, in the security sector, all of them, because right now it is common knowledge that even even the ethanol that people are saying that is being sold in the streets and all of that, and all of the drugs, everything that is happening in Kenya is known to the security sector, and there's someone somewhere who is receiving bribes to let these things pass through. So, but ignoring all of that, and we focus on the legislative arm of government, and we pretend that it is the only corrupt one. The only way we can really know if the war on legislative corruption is real, if there will be if there will be arrests, if there will be prosecutions, if the president, who is the one who has initiated this conversation, will provide proof, because he said he's a consumer of raw intelligence. If he can provide proof and name members, and not only members who we will see that he is going after them politically, members even in his own camp. Because in fact, I think that if we can put up a corruption index, maybe the people in the president's camp will be number one, starting with my MP, Oscar Kipchumba Sudi. Maybe they will be number one in that corruption index. So we have to know this, because, for example, Oscar Sudi is somebody who I think people think that the narrative in the ground in Kapseret is that we should support Oscar Sudi because Oscar Sudi defends the president. And I know that sounds ridiculous, because you think the president is very, very mature politically and he can handle his own politics, but that is the thinking. But, Oscar Sudi obviously is a friend of the president, because it gives him access to tenders, to contracts, to government jobs. That is all he is there for. So I think if the president is sincere in going after legislative corruption, of course we know he's not sincere, but the only way that it can be proven to us is through arrests and prosecutions. That is all I have to say for today.
Engineers, you come on Anipata. There's a question for you. If we can't, and I know it's hard to know the best of men, then let's have checks and balances that sees them out. Yes, town halls, meetings with repercussions on performance. Is it town hall meetings mingi zinaorganiziwa with the, zinakwanga zimepangwa tayari with the executives, kama ile ya Rigathi Gachagua, it was so fast we didn't even discuss it on Home Run. Tuliambiwa tu.
Yes, and in some places, and I will not say it is Eldoret, but I was in Eldoret that time. There were goons who are stationed in places so that they ensure that there are no people who are discussing how that is unfair or how that is wrong, what is happening. So it is every town hall that is organized in Kenya is always choreographed. They are singers, and even the people who are opposing are choreographed. They are told what to say, so that the rebuttal can seem so brilliant. But otherwise, I don't think that the town halls in Kenya, anything that resembles a town hall in Kenya has ever been genuine in my eyes. That's what I think.
Okay, I see we have Tom Boya, we have Diamond as well on the mic. Tom Boya, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, and
Yeah.
thank you so much. Let me try to address the issue of war on legislative corruption. Now, first, I want to start by saying that nature is in action, and God is working for Kenyans. When I say that, I mean that as time goes, things will always happen in a manner that it is expected to happen, until a time will come that every other person will appear to be confused, to look as if they were caught off guard. Just as education has brought us to a level of awareness that young people can come out and speak and address the leaders in a manner that they did not expect. God is on our side. The best way to achieve war on legislative corruption, I still believe, is by draining the swamp. And whatever is happening right now, the best that can always happen is when the people who have kept you captive start fighting against themselves. As they say that when you try to fight corruption, corruption will fight back. When the parliament finds themselves in a situation whereby they are ready and willing to fight the executive, that one only helps to bring us closer to draining the swamp. I've heard that there is even plan to table an impeachment motion. Any form of wrangles between the president, the executive, and the parliament, it only works in our favor. After all, we are saying Ruto must go. Let me bring another perspective. The war on legislative corruption, we can succeed in it when we implement what is in the Constitution. Our Constitution envisions a presidential system of government whereby the executive is separate, the judiciary is independent, and parliament is independent. What has always happened is that parliament has always been dependent on the executive. The executive have always used its powers to influence what happened in parliament. And this one is also happening so because we gave the president the power, we gave him the pass, we gave him the sword, and we also gave him the ability to have his hand on the treasury. It seems we have a president who is the chairman of this company or this organization called Kenya, and at the same time, he is the treasurer. The fact that the president is able to access the consolidated account, the fact that the president has ability to influence what happens in the treasuries, that is why we find ourselves here. But the Constitution says otherwise. When we implement the Constitution as it is, we should be able to separate powers of the president from access to the treasury, and by that we will succeed. Thank you. I'm dropping just because I'm getting a little bit busy. Thank you.
It's all right. Thank you so much for finding time to talk to us, Bwana Tomboya. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 9 minutes towards the top of the hour. Tulisema leo tunaenda majambo. Okay. Tulisema leo kwamba tunapeleka home run mpaka masaa ya saa 4. So we still have like 2 hours of conversation. So don't you worry, get into that comfortable situation and let us have that conversation. But also, mine is to remind you, man, today is my birthday. And if you've never tipped me, this could be your best day to tip me. You get what I'm saying, guys? Yeah, ita slap sana ukinitip siku ya birthday yangu. Sijui kama ina make sense, eh? Yeah, so I hope to get to you as we continue this conversation. Also, remember, Home Run with PP is your social conversation platform where we give you a chance to air your thoughts. Naona vile John na Diamond wamepelekana pale, you can also go get into that chant and also air your views. I'm trying to get to Kirer parts. Sijui kama Kirer unanisikia? Ako kwa listener. My lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP, the home of your most valuable social conversations.
Okay. You are listening to Home Run with PP. Naona pale hivi Japonji anaonyesha tabia za Wakenya when we decided to buy tickets za Chan for Tanzania. Sawa, wanatuuzia tikiti 50 na Kenya tuko kwa line. Kama saizi bado niko kwa line ya ticket ya Chan. Oh, nimepata moja. Only 960 tickets left for Kenya versus Madagascar. I'm so going. Nani anataka tikiti? Lakini nikirudi nitapewa blanda. Whoever wants a ticket, talk to me nice. I have gotten one. Jesus, ningechukua 2 kama watanirudisha tena kwa 2. Ndio hiyo nimekuwa kwa line. Who doesn't have a ticket?
Hatuna na hatutaki. Ni saa ngapi hiyo game by the way? Usitusumbue.
Iko 5 p.m. on Friday.
Tuletee goons watupige kichwa.
Jesus. Temwadhani nimepanga line, zimebaki tiketi 960 by the way. Chanione kama
So nikirefresh hiyo page itakubali. Ilikuwa imeniambia ningoje kwa awali.
Unapanga line. Hata mimi nimepanga line, sasa ndo nimeona wamenifungulia 2 silver tickets just paid to MOOC Africa. Wacha tuone. Confirm payment. Ewe, wacha wewe wameenda na pesa. Wameenda na pesa. This website has been rate limited. Mama! Pesa imeenda guys.
Unaniambia it has been rate limited. Sasa hata sielewi.
Sasa mimi nakwambia. Sasa what? Sawa, bahati mbaya. Kenya yetu hii. Ngani hata unanunua tikiti na bado hauwezi watch. By the way, Friday by your time nitakuwa mjini. So there will be no home run on Friday. We will be fighting for Madagascar, guys. Against Madagascar, actually. Kirer, how are you doing?
Hey, Pipi, what's up?
I'm good. And you? Just got to the
Fine,
3rd floor. Kuna baridi huku.
Karibu sana. Hapa ndio sasa unanga pressure na maisha. Unatulia ikubebe tu. Utamkia 40. Utamkia, life begins at 40. So uko na live ya 10 years. Anyway, happy birthday. Happy many more returns. Wishing you all the very best. Yeah. Pressure za maisha zikupande, wewe tulia pole pole. Pace yako, speed yako, everything will be okay. Inshallah. Now, I've had submissions here. War on legislative corruption. You might be made to believe that it's only a Kenyan problem. It isn't actually. Even these jurisdictions that we are all quoting them, corruption still exists on that legislative level. Of course, it's a bit low level, right? I mean, it depends now. I think at that point you are now looking at the levels of corruption and how rampant is it? But they still exist, right? Because interests do exist across the world. If you go to the private sector, you'll find a different form of corruption. Boardroom corruption also exists, right? So all those things happen. Now, it begs me the question: corruption as a whole, leaving alone even not pigeoning it into the legislative or anything like that. My question is corruption a symptom or a disease? I think I'll start. That will be my departure. Is it a disease that we need to fight, or is it a symptom of something underlying? So we keep fighting symptoms, but they will always come back because the disease is not cured. So my take is that corruption thingy is a symptom of a lot of things: failed systems, failed institutions, failed economic empowerment among the people, because it's a scarcity concept, right? It's scarcity plus failed institutions plus culture is what gives us corruption at the end of the day. Now, if we are fighting the result of 3 things that we are not addressing, then it will always be us chasing our tails around the clock. That's my take, right? There's a book called the Parliament Limited. It talks about the UK Parliament and how all these legislators come up with laws, or even when they want to go to war, they'll pass war laws, they will pass aid into Africa, and they're the biggest suppliers of all those. So they're basically the ones doing business behind the scenes. Of course, you're always required to declare a conflict of interest, but not a lot of them. If I'm not in that committee, why should I declare my conflict of interest? I wasn't in that committee of transport, right? I mean, the committee of catering, for instance, in parliament. So it doesn't really require me to declare an interest because I'm not the one making the decision. But in lieu, there's someone making that decision to push that thing my way. And I do the same in my community their way, in my committee their way. So that is literally that scarcity point. Now, if you, people keep on saying Singapore, I think that is basically, we are comparing, that is the Andromeda galaxy and we're on Earth. So I think that's far-fetched. If you look at South Korea, let's come a little bit, notch down a little bit. Most of their president want, it's almost a percentage, right? One way of getting a life sentence in South Korea is to become a president. They usually joke like that because to them they don't condone, right? No one is untouchable. Everyone is touchable, right? And then now, secondly, they did work fast on prosperity. Prosperity in this case meaning building economic systems that are they have massive impact. They have an impact onto the mass itself, because first, a lot of digitization. You have had even, I mean, get out of the executive, because we're talking about not even executive, legislature, because that is the highest level of corruption, right? But if we bring it all the way down to the basics, right? Where do we start with down here, right? Being forced. I think there was an example yesterday about this school's principal forcing you to buy goods for uniform from another shop. That is corruption at its very basic level. Leave alone that. Why can we do? I mean, e-procurement is one area that to me, that's very petty corruption that even the county government should be able to address that, right? All these revenue collection clerks, we have no use having 3,000 people who bring in money that cannot even pay their own salaries, the 3,000 of them. So that digitization point, of course, you're basically the principal agent problem, which you have always talked about as being a problem. Getting rid of it on the basic level is one point. Now, can the government now actively work on creating this empowerment of bicycles we were talking about yesterday or the other day? I don't remember. And this empowerment of giving out, car washing machines, that isn't it. Why can't we create those industries? I think there was a thing about industrial aggregation zones, was it? That Moses Kuria was championing initially under MITI. Was it MITI, right? And that's the ministry. But looking at it from that picture, to create employment on a very basic level, because if I don't have it, I will always find a way of surviving. I will always find a way of beating the system to get it. And that is where corruption is an enabler. It doesn't deter, it enables. It enables means to get something. Mtoto wangu hakupita shule, alipata hii marks. How do I get through the system? I need to give some money to the principal. Eventually my kid is accepted to that school. Corruption is an enabler across. It oils the wheels, right? Now, if we create abundancy and remove out this scarcity, right? And then now, strong institutions prosperity or development will not follow strong institutions. Strong institutions will follow development. It's the other way around. A strong judicial system, a strong bureaucracy, a strong civil service will not come in a society where poverty is prevalent. It will never happen. So we are basically chasing the wheel the other way around. We are basically going anti-clockwise. Of course, anyway, that our clock will still be right twice a day, but yeah, we'll be wrong the entire time. So why can't we now work on the improving fast prosperity, and then all these systems definitely follow? The bigger volume of middle class you have, and I think a lot of economic studies, not even economic studies, even political theory, will tell you there's a little bit of a reduced volume of corruption. Now, we were talking about ethanol being sold here and there. If everyone is economically empowered to a point, they don't need to basically go for cheap liquor, that market disappears. What happens next? Right? The need for getting and selling ethanol to those producers in the
Have we lost Kirer? Diamond?
I think we have lost him. I think we have lost him.
He's actually dropping.
Yes.
He's actually dropping. I would want to hear what Mbasliech's submission is in terms of these guys. Yeah? Mambo ya because Mbasliech last week kidogo awawashe na naona anangojea saa 3 ndio aingie kwa mic. It's 1 hour.
Nilikuwa nangoja sana Kirera amalize. Amesema hatutakuwa kama Singapore, hatutakuwa kama sijui nani. Sasa nataka nangoja.
Wacha kuja amalize submission yake. Kirer bwana, huwezi kuwa huko na unateseka na sisi na Airtel hapa. Haiwezi. So guys, ukweli wacha tu niwaambie ukweli. Mnafaa msindikizange Nyasamia vitu zingine. Isikuwe tu Nyasamia ndo peke yake ana tip show. Leo tumefanya birthday party yangu hapa kwa Home Run. Isipokuwa Malia na Nyasamia, watu wangu wa Home Run hamnipendi, hata siku ya birthday mnaniwacha tu kwa mataa. Ai, go to that tip line 0721 948 tuwekeni, acha tusimame 1 minute watu waweke cha birthday. Sasa Kirera na malizia.
Kirera, umepata pesa ngapi ndio tuchange? Ndio tuongeze
nimepata
50-50.
Mimi niko very transparent. Niko very transparent. Wakifungua sava ya Sha nafungua yangu. Kirera.
Sorry, I think my net dropped at some point. I don't know where I was when I dropped. But anyway, Pipi, just to close my submission really. Now, there is some article written. It's not.
Ulikuwa tuambia tuwezi kuwa New Singapore, ndo Diamond is waiting to respond. So what about New Singapore?
No, I'm not responding. I want to understand now that we cannot be Singapore, we cannot be South Korea because they hang their presidents. And we have all these moral problems that you understand. What's the solution, Baba? That's what I'm waiting for.
Now listen, you don't basically policy morals. In my opinion, you can't. There's no morometer or moralometer, whatever you want to call it, right? I heard you saying these people, when they get to parliament, they become ineptly corrupt eventually. It's basically, I mean, in every system, your accelerator has got a brake somewhere. You don't trust on the gears to reduce you to a stop. You don't count on velocity to help you stop, right? There must be a check and balance in every system. So I'm not my own employer. The reason we have an HR department and my supervisor who oversees what I do, as much as they trust me to do my job, there's still an oversight on what I do, right? Even the non-political world, there's no way. Diamond systems controls have to be there, and those are the institutions, right? So you have the judiciary to interpret the laws, right, and to come up with probation and controls of it. So I cannot. If we are trying at least give us angels, no. Absolute power corrupts. Power alone corrupts. What about absolute power? If I trust you, Diamond, you are the best person. We don't actually need IEBC. We expect you to bring votes, and all you aspirants are going to count it for yourselves. And then you will come out and tell us, okay, so after counting, Diamond is the winner without a control. Is that what you're saying? No. It has also been proven that even where morality needs to be championed, even in the religious sects, the corruption inside there is unheard of. It's not even, I'm not saying unheard of, it doesn't exist. It exists to the high heavens. So what if it already exists in the moral barometer of the society, where do you expect politicians to be in that spectrum? Of course, they come, they close the door behind all the immoral people in the world. So that does not exist. That is a function of the institutions and the system. But again, as I mentioned, there is no way that we will get better institutions and better bureaucracy, better cultural practices if we are not prosperous. If we don't get poverty out, if we don't at least uplift the level of lives of everyone, it will never happen. It will never happen. You cannot expect a poor household, right? Have a village of 100 poor families, right? And then now, apart from fearing God, tell me anything else they fear. I doubt. I doubt they fear anything else.
Just one last question from me. I get a frustration that, look, without systems that check each other, it becomes very difficult to stop all these bad manners that happen. But look at it this way: Parliament is expected to actually be the checker. It's one of the checks and balances for the executive. Now you also have all these institutions, EACC, DCI, I don't know, DPP, and every other institution that we've set up. But it's still crumbling on itself. I don't think you believe that it's doing any better. In fact, the complexities
I
are
think
adding into the problems.
so. So the executive are quite smart. You know, this is politics. I think someone was I don't know if it was Tomo saying God is working for us. Now when you see things happening, just know they have always been planned. Nothing just usually just happen in a vacuum. When you see politicians do something, do not read what they are doing. Read go 2 steps forward and try to understand. Because at the moment, what we have been doing, we're basically chasing their game, and they throw bonds to us, and we're basically chewing those bonds and going after them. No one is actually sitting down and thinking, what are they planning? Because listen, there's no way a president and a prime minister will come and call out all their MPs about corruption and all that, and then they touch one sensitive bit. It's CDF. Basically, CDF is the leash of parliament from the executive, because that is the executive. Even that budget, the president can increase or reduce that money. So the president knows, when I touch this, these people will they will toe the line. Whatever I say, they will toe the line from now. So if you start making noise, CDF, and then now they all keep quiet. And this thing about they are going to impeach the executive, forget it. It will not happen. Now, if that's what you're banking on to have a new Kenya, that will not happen. Look for another plan. But these two houses, and I mean, the function of the legislature, of parliament, legislation, representation, and oversight. That is it. Now we gave the money to go and do projects. I don't know which bit of the three key functions CDF lies. I don't know which one. I don't know if that is oversight. It doesn't sound like it. Is that representation? I don't think so. It's basically for you to go and voice our say in parliament. Right. So is that legislature? No, it's not. Yeah. So it's basically sorry.
No, just one last one. There are many lasts that are coming from me. Now let's look at the Senate, for example. It does not have a CDF, right? However, I have seen most of its decisions as well, and its power of oversight is still not very good. I can't say there is any better record between the Senate and the National Assembly, despite the fact that obviously they don't get as much money. In fact, I would easily say they exert more money from the state governors, quote unquote, and the rest that they oversight than those that have the CDF. We have a moral problem.
All right, I have a question with Senate, because I usually see. Let's start with that thing about governors. Oh, and luckily, my governor Mutai is facing the knife next week. And after Ruto said there was 150 Usoko Huru, I'm sure this time he's not going to escape. Senate will want to prove a point with him, even if he's innocent, he will go. That's why he's
now you see the problem. Now you see the problem.
Exactly. Now, but I usually follow those sessions. I think the Senator Otieno Kajwa usually put it on his Facebook page, right? They're quite very interesting. Now, there's usually the Office of Auditor General, the OAG there, right? And the work of the Senate is basically, I've never understood. It's like it's like the OAG is a lab technician, and then this one is a physician. The senior physician is the Senate, and then they're asking the governor. It's a triangle of the three, right? The OAG have done their work. They have sent out the recommendation. This has not been met. We have some query items are here, 1, 2, 3. The Senate just goes through the query items and requires the OAG to basically confirm if the county government has responded adequately. If it has responded adequately, they say those are satisfactory. We drop those query items. Now, my question is, what exactly is the work of Senate there? Because the OAG is already doing its work with the county government. So are they just there to be the prefect? I don't know.
Once you become governor, you will realize that for the Senate to say you have responded adequately, it's not about response, boss.
Exactly. And that's why I think really, to me, all this oversight, I think, sorry.
Let me give you an example. The governor for Isiolo at some point was accused of having ghost workers to the tune of, I think, 1,000 or how many. I think someone can check. But a very high number. But after a few Senate discussions, it was cleared. Tell me how that can be cleared. How? How do you clear someone who has ghost workers? How? How would you say it is satisfactory?
Don't quote me, but that I think that is the latest Soko Uro of 1 million. WSR was saying the other day. Don't quote me, please. Listen, thank you. That was my submission. Thanks. Diamond, you'll get me in trouble.
Diamond unapenda kuseti watu na mimi nakuoningi. Ndio maana hata nilikuona kabla ukuje.
Nimeenda kabisa pipi, nimeenda.
Nilikuona. Sasa wewe ndio unaenda ama umefukuza Kirere? Sasa ukienda mnaenda wote. Japonji is trying to connect to the space. Juu nini mbaya? Anyway, thank you bwana Mushiri. Mushiri amehakikisha boy child amenitumia gift ya birthday. Yaani wanaume mnakuanga roho ingine hardcore kama ile mjengo. Anyway, naona Japonji ako kwenye panel is trying to request. Sijui kama network huko kwenu leo imekuwa restricted. Ingia kwa VPN ndugu yangu. Ingia kwa VPN. But what I'm hearing from you guys is kuna watu ambao tayari wameshaona hii legislative process kwenye inaenda na ni kwa milima. Na kuna wale ambao bado wako na hopes nayo. Na vile Kirera amesema, by the way, Mutai is going to see a very hot fight. Actually, I will be watching it tomorrow. So kama unataka kuwatch along na mimi nitashukuru. But I know Mutai is going to see hell on earth. Ndio maana wamemleta kwa parliament yenyewe. Si eti wamemleta kwa you get. Wamemleta bunge.
Wamesukuma mpaka next week. It's next week Wednesday.
Ilikuwa Thursday. Next week Thursday ama this week Thursday?
I think they moved it to next week. They want to go to Mombasa.
Let's wait for next week. They're going to on Friday. Because I know National Assembly is going on recess this Friday.
Sorry, so they have extended the calendar by 2 weeks, and then the recess for Senate will start 2 weeks late. So you're hearing Wednesday, Thursday next week. Yeah.
Hiyo itakuwa vizuri, nitakuwa nimerudi studio, sitakuwa na game, itakuwa ni mimi na yeye na Mike. Yaani nitakuwa na cheka tu yani. I know the cinema is about to cinema. The last time walituambia eti deputy anaongeleshanga vibaya. Haki ya Mungu hivi mtaniambia hiyo parliament kama ni emotional, ni relationship ama ni kazi. Japonji. Leo ni kama kuna mtu amehang line ya Japonji.
Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute.
Umejua ninakugonga saizi tu. Lakini Kirer part, you need to talk to engineer akufundishe vile unaweza toka kwa constituency ya engineer mwenzako na musaidiane. Unajua hizi vitu hauwezi jua.
Uchokozi bana, uchokozi.
Wewe niambia wewe ni engineer ukweli, because Kapsaret sasa tutabidi tuanze ku research hizo jina. Wewe ni engineer wa kweli ama unasoma kuwa engineer ama wewe ni
okay. Mimi ni engineer wa ukweli nayo. Mimi ni engineer wa ukweli, si wa mawaya. Unajua huyo mwingine ati ni wa mawaya.
Anaitwa mkarabati halisi. Mimi Kenya nimeonanga vitu man.
Yes, people.
Talk to me Japonji.
Is it your real birthday ama tu hivi nini?
Nimekuambia nini?
If I check your profile, profile yako inasema kitu tofauti huko.
Stop fact checking me bro. There is a reason why. Kuna birthday ya social media na kuna birthday yangu. Sasa hii ni birthday yangu.
Yeah, but nilisikia gogo akikupigia simu, now I know it's your birthday.
Ulisikia my grandma kiniongelesha, yes.
Yeah,
she was singing. Actually today my last born sister woke me up with a call. Happy birthday to you. And then while I was running the space, watu nikibembeleza kina Diamond washike mic, my grandma calls me with singing to me. So for me, hata kama nime spend nyumbani, I have just spent it with love, my mom and dad here. So na nimekula keki ya Afrika. Mambo ya makeki.
So pipi enjoy while it lasts. Once you reach uko nini 4th floor, birthday wanaume huwa celebrate. Hiyo lazima ujue. Men don't like those things. They don't like.
Ni mtoto hajafika, nikipata wa kwanza story ya birthday inaisha.
Labda tu ingie kwa showroom, uliza watu ina Diamond, mbona muambie pipi ukweli? Unajua ukifika hapo 40, birthday yako ikifika unaingia kwa showroom, unatoka na gitu, unatoka na gari. Alafu wewe hivyo tu yani una celebrate tu hivyo. But anyway, dunia itakufunza. Pipi, hii mambo ya sijui corruption, legislative, unajua, now what I'm seeing here is that Ruto has used the legislature. Amewause, alafu anataka amewathrow under the bus. But also it might be a game that he wants these MPs to take blame for what has been happening. The problem is these nini zimekuwa zikipitishwa from finance bills, sijui vitu za SHA, sijui vitu za illegal, all these things has been in his favor, is in the favor of the executive. So it only makes sense that the corrupt person has been the executive, and the MPs have said, they have come out and said that they have been pushing the agenda of the president of the executive, And the other thing that baffles me is, if you know that there is a committee of people who are corrupt, like you say it, because I expect the president to have intelligence, and he knows who has been corrupt. And on a side note, I think Ruto akipeana pesa na ekanga evidence to blackmail you. I think these people have been blackmailed. And there's a question that was asked by this anaitwangaje huyu Raila sana, aliuliza that Junior, sijui Raila Junior, aliuliza, imagine mnapeana pesa kwa CDF to pay for school fees and bursary in a government school. Make it make sense. Why can't we just direct those funds to that government school? Bila kwani lazima ipitie juu pesa ikipitia mahali pia kuna a lot of unajua accountability inaendelea ikiisha, unajua, na corruption pia inaongezeka as the money as it changes hands, unaget. So that thing anaweza nikasema it makes much sense, unajua, because shule ni ya serikali, pesa ni ya serikali, mbona ipitie kwa mtu huko ndio iende kwa hiyo shule? Amen. So the other thing is there seem to be a change of game in Ruto's mind. And I don't know how to say if Ruto is smart or strategically good, because he's looking at these MPs. Now, this one is not going to go back in 2027. Let me do away with. So as we watch this political corruption thing moving forward, some MPs watarushwa nje. Juu ataangalia kwa ground, which I think the president has a lot of intelligence. Anaangalia anasema huyu kwa ground ni moto, hata rudi. So he's of no use to me. So he will start cutting them loose. Their work has been done. I mean, he has achieved what he wanted. So it's their time to. The other thing is, you see, as much as we can talk here, they are MPs for ODM. They still have that alliance, allegiance to Raila, and they can shout here and there and make all this noise, but I know they will still stay with Baba and the Ruto. That one I can tell. Now, for you to, if they think of impeaching, they have to convince our MPs what we're doing. And if someone tries to impeach Ruto and fail, I think that's when you know the true colors of Ruto. Kama ni blackmail na nini, itafanyika. If you look at Valley Rift Valley, all those people who are going against Ruto, they are been reduced to nothing. They cannot even cough. They are zero. Even Gideon Moyo for kuna by election inakuja huko sijui Baringo North. Kanu cannot stand against Ruto. So Ruto is one person that if you go against him, now he has evidence that you are corrupt, alikulipa or something, he will blackmail you, and also you will make sure you don't wake up, you are dead. When you're on the ground, you don't have a say. You look at the central Kenya. Ruto is also bitter. He has spent a lot of money on trying to revive, votes for him for 2027 using Kindiki and all that. But there's a showdown coming tomorrow. Rigiji is coming back. Unajua, if it was Raila hiyo time, ikonga tukisema sijui kama Malia kwa hapa. We used to say, Baba, while you are away, this and this happened. There was that aspect of scarcity creates more demand. You become scarce, kirudi unakuwa celebrated. Unajua, I remember when they used to say, kama Baba yuko Kenya imenyamaza, everything is okay. But when Baba used to come, unakumbuka from airport, so it used to bring that commotion. I think that is the card that Ligiji is trying to pull tomorrow. And yeah, I think and but one more thing about this corruption, fighting MPs as a president is not easy. For him to come out and say that he has a lot of blackmail proof. Kuna proof ako nayo. I don't think the president will just come out and say that these people are corrupt, which means watu wamekuwa kiwalipa. Na I don't think the president anaweza tu kupatia pesa ama kubribe na aweki evidence blackmail. And as time goes on, ours will just watch. Wauane, wapigane, wakufiane. That is also part of the game. We just stand aside and watch. Wakisha uona wakufe wote watoke, sisi tuingie. Thanks, Vicky.
All right, Japonji, thank you so much for that and also for your tip. I don't know if there is somebody who is on the listener panel or on the speaker panel who has something to say or add on the conversation.
I just wanted to ask Kirero the other time. What do you think that? I think that you asked a question that you said that I don't think it was a question. I think you just said that the legislature cannot fight the executive due to. I think what I want to ask you is: do you think that there is an incentive that can be given to the legislature so that they can fight corruption, or all these other independent institutions in such a way that they can fight corruption? What do you think?
I don't know. All right. We're already paying them a salary. I don't know what other incentive. They are there to make laws, right? Now, if you look at those parties, because now majority leader, it comes from what? The ruling party in the house. Who's the head of the party in Kenya? Most of the time, the chairman of that party is the president. That alone, from just starting from there, do you really expect Kimani Ichung'wah to be impartial to Ruto? Or Aaron Cheruyot, for instance, in Senate, to be impartial to the president? Do you expect Junet Mohammed to be impartial to Raila Odinga, to Baba? Really, it cannot work. So whatever from the departure point, everything is already off. Those parties are their own property. ODM is Baba's property. Whether you will dispute that, you will jump up and down, it's Baba's property. There's no way you're going to go inside there and think otherwise without getting out of ODM. The same thing in UDA, you cannot think otherwise without getting out of UDA. You cannot see the Wamunyoro camp. Senator Medu, the Afro guy, his mind opened up finally, right? But he's not out of UDA. He can now talk, right? Because you are now in the opposition. You can now talk. He cannot talk like that as a member of UDA, which is the president's party. So whatever incentive you give them, that line can never be drawn. Duale usually says it himself. He told Uhuru, listen, I'm going to stick with William. You can remove me as a majority leader. He had to get out of that relationship with the president for him to speak his mind with Ruto on the other side. He could not speak his mind at the same time being the leader of majority in the ruling party, which was Jubilee.
Yes, because you know what I was thinking is that the spirit of the constitution. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but I might be wrong here. But the spirit of the constitution is that these MPs will go after the executive, if the executive is corrupt, because there is a political incentive. But you see, that cannot happen in this country clearly, because if someone right now goes against Ruto, Aaron Cheruyot will be in parliament saying that you are going after our Kalenjin brother, or just trying to insert tribalism into the fight against corruption. And even in some cases, the fight against corruption is not objective. So I was thinking that although the constitutions, the people who wrote the constitution thought that there will be an political incentive for the MPs to fight corruption, there is none, because you cannot go against your own kingpin, and you cannot go. So I'm wondering if, according to me, I don't think that the political spaces, they will help us in oversight in any way in corruption. I think maybe I was thinking if there are career incentives for people in the other independent institutions. That is what I'm thinking.
Clear. Go ahead.
Right. I think there will come a time, not now. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. There will come a time where nobody will be owning those parties, right? And that will only happen when we get to the level of where you have the Labour Party, Conservative Party, you have the Democrats, you have the Republicans. It gets to when we're at that maturity level. You don't have. I mean, Trump came out of nowhere without being in Parliament, without being in Senate, and he became the president, right? So he didn't have to be ingrown or inbred within the Republicans to be that. No, he didn't have to be a senator for 50 years or 10 now, right? Same thing you're seeing happening. Rishi Sunak could easily be the prime minister because they could easily vote him in, Kai Starmer, all those kind of guys. Because the maturity in political party is at a level where it's not owned by anyone. It's no longer personal property. But now in Kenya, to make sure we don't get there, for this election, you use Jubilee. The next, we start with the TNA, URP. You break it down to Jubilee. You take it back to UDA. You say Kenya Kwanza. You are doing that purposefully so that we don't get to a point where we have matured political parties, right? They're still toddling around with them. ODM probably is the oldest political party at the moment if you think about it, right? But after Baba goes, will it disintegrate or will it remain? That will be the next thing, right? Now, if it remains and keeps going on as ODM now, and you can easily see. I like Sifuna. Sifuna is basically pulling a Ruto in Kanu time, right? Where you have to go against them and build some affordable footprint outside to a point you can now start amassing some following and some support somewhere, right? So he's pulling. You have to pull out because you are seeing in the next 20 years, okay, this thing is going to be siblings in a rivalry. So what do? I step out first. Because I remember when Moi was leaving power, there was a lot of squabbles, right? Moi didn't want to leave it to the young boys. Enrico's gay. You can imagine those wigs who were still existing in the party. Ruto had no space there. You could not go and speak in front of Enrico's gay. Nicholas Biwott was still there. All those party stalwarts were still there. But what did he do? He had to step out, go into the wilderness, come back again through other means, and eventually you start being the foothold around there, right? So potentially a lot of those diversions are going to happen. Potentially, if KANU could have stayed, that could have been the oldest party, at least in power, right? If it could have stayed, maybe it could have gotten to a point whereby KANU is not Gideon Moi's property. At the moment, it's Gideon Moi's property. He's the one who funds it. That is his property now. He took over from the dad. Now, that is not a party to me. That's just his personal vehicle that he uses, right? All the funds that come from the political, the joint fund goes to him, them to ODM. You don't tell me, or all the MPs, all the contributions that go into that party, if Raila takes away half of it, are you going to tell him, Baba, where's the money that came from the consolidated fund or the political fund pool? Where is the money? No, you cannot dare ask him. It's his party. He can do whatever he wants to do with that money. Now, until the point it gets there where I can speak my mind with all the repercussions from the party, that is where this oversight is going to work. From the legislator to the executive. But at the moment, as long as I'm the one who, because we were saying here, the moment you pick up UDA ticket in a Sigawet constituency, you stop campaigning after nomination. That's what people do. Campaigns end at nomination. So even our women rep, I think Kericho women rep, she went there unopposed. After nominations, there were basically no elections for the women rep. People were just sticking because there were no one to fight her now during the general election. And that's what happens. I think there was a wave of MCAs where a lot of them were independent, gave a lot of problems to the county governments, and then political parties realized these independent things, this madoa here, are spoiling the mood of the moment. And the last election they made sure they dealt with all the independent candidates squarely. To a point they really reduced. I think 2017 was the highest volume of independent candidates, and then that disappeared on the last election. We still have a few, but to me, that was a bit of a descent, right? People were a bit tired with the flow and people wanted to test new things. But it seems it's getting old again. When you go, Japonje, I'm sure if I go to Nyakach, if Adwaro 6-piece, if it's 6-piece from top to bottom, we don't want to know what you do here in the middle. As long as Baba has it on top, and then everything else is just ODM to the bottom. That's the same thing someone in Sigawet Soin constituency is going to do. UDA top, bottom. Because the president comes there and said during elections, you cannot give me power and don't give me the parliament. How will I work? Now imagine, that's the statement he's saying. How will I work? Right? And there was a time in the US election, was it Bush or was it sorry, it was Trump who won, but he did not have the House, right? But for some reason he shut down government. If you all remember, I think the government was shut twice. And to him, when they were saying let's shut down government, he said, what? Go ahead, shut it. After government was shut, they had to come back to the table and negotiate. Both sides, they go, okay, now listen, we have to get into a consensus here. We cannot operate like this. Republicans, what do you want? This is what we want. We meet in the middle. Okay, let's let things continue as usual. That is their form of a handshake there, not these two people meeting. It's a consensus of the entire house. That's how it works. So until we get to that, in my own opinion, that level of maturity, all these other things we're doing is just we're trying, as your MP usually say, Jeniabed, ukarabati. Hii yote ni ukarabati until we get there. Thank you.
I think I'll have to change the MPs now.
But how do we get? Kirera has a very solid point. Yeah, we have never had a political party that has connected other than ODM. I don't know if there is any other that has connected other than ODM. I don't think so. Maybe that is a conversation I would also want to hear what Diamond thinks about it. Diamond, what do you think? Is it about this political party thing? Because I also see what Kirera is saying. Because now in places like the US and also UK, you see Labour Party. UK, US have Republicans versus Democrats.
Pipi, I'll talk to you. Just give me a few minutes.
Sawa. But I will also want to hear even the rest.
Okay.
Japonji. Engineer, you had something?
Yes, yes,
talk to us.
I had something to say. So I've heard what Kirera has said just now, but this is my thinking. Okay, you know, the political parties in Kenya are not coherent ideological vehicles in any case. They are just because, you know, Kenyans do not even have the basic understanding of what an ideology is. Because what we lean more on is the ethnicity factor. And jobs, it's just primitive accumulation. We'll get our person in power. He will give people jobs. He will bring development to our place. It's purely material. There's no ideology connected. It's just let's have it so that these other people cannot have it. But I think that going forward, and I think maybe going forward there'll be ideological shifts, I think, happening, especially in urban areas. But I don't even think that political parties, I don't even think that even the theory that ODM has taken a foothold in the country, that it has connected ideology, it has connected to the people, as you have said, Pipita. I don't think it's exactly true. I think even ODM has some slight ethnicity involved in their politics. Of course, they are very, very broad. They cover a very broad area from coast and all of that. But I think that is also true for ODM, that they are a party that have not taken a foothold ideologically. I don't think that our politicians have any use in of ideology. I think the ideology will shift according to what message that they want to portray. So I don't know. I don't know how we'll come out of that hole, but I don't think that it will happen soon. Anyway, that is what I'm thinking.
Okay, what do you think? Tomboy said you were out. Are you still listening? I would want to hear your opinion as well. We are Amanda. I missed it. All right. Japonji pia umeniambia nikupatie dakika. My lord. Request the microphone and talk to us as well. Yes, 23 minutes to the top of the hour. This is Home Run with PP.
Ladies and gentlemen, join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP, the home of your most valuable social conversations.
Haya, tunaona pale hiyo story ya independent. Nimesikia story independent. It is quite interesting because I think Muhammad Ali joined parliament with independent and shortly after jumped onto UDA. Ama mimi ndo sijui history yangu. I think that's the history. And also the one and only nani mwingine alihama independent. Most independents can't survive in this parliament. Let's be honest, Kirer. It's all about survival in bunge. Njaa iko pale. Umesikia mambo ya wabunge wanasema eti hawezi nunua hata suti 10,000. How? Kirer.
Yes, PP, that's very true. And again, that comes down to political parties, right? Because imagine you have been told about these committees. These committees are actually very lucrative, huh? If you think about it. All these committees in parliament, they are money-making machines.
You know, you get paid. What is the sitting allowance for every committee? Because I know Kimani Zishungwa's salary jumped from 700K to 1 million for just being head of majority.
Yeah, and he has an office. He has a budget to the office. Whatever he does with that budget, either buying tissues for 10,000 a piece, it's up to his discretion, right? So, yeah, those committees, and you find members. Salasia the other day was complaining, "I've been removed from this committee. I'm now in catering committee." So some committees also are more powerful than others, like the defense committee, where one MP from Belgood called Nelson Koech is the chairman. That's quite a powerful committee. So. They know the big committees where money is and where money does not. It doesn't there. I mean, catering Princess Lasha now has to choose the menu for the MPs. Watakula mandazi Tuesday, chapati Wednesday. That is his job now. So he doesn't need a lot of money to think there.
But Kirer, why are you forgetting that in the Section 23 of Political Parties Act, 0.3% of national government revenue huwa inapeanwa kwa political parties. UDA ilipata ngapi? 480 million, I think, is it? UDA ikapata 256 million, Jubilee 135 million, Wiper Party 72 million, UDM 26 million. Hizi pesa zinafanyiwa nini?
Yeah, exactly. I think I mentioned that before, right? All that money, Baba akichukua hiyo pesa yote hautamuuliza because the party belongs to him. Same to UDA. Ruto akienda ajenge nayo nyumba hakuna kitu tunamwambia. The party belongs to him. He audits, he does the accounting and he does the auditing himself. It's like your own house. Whenever you get your salary Japonji, nobody else asks you what you do with that money.
Because Kirer, if we break it down, if UDA got 480 million, that is financial year 2024-2025, that is more than $1 million a day, isn't it? So I think that is where also they get the money for all these things they're calling what? Economic forums, because it's a lot of money.
Empowerment.
We should not forget about that. That is what pesa yenye anatumia kwa kina customer.
Kireru umeruka. But kina Kasmuel ni kama wanakuwa groomed. It's so evident. Kasmuel are getting groomed. They were taken to that thing in the US. Hello?
But now, PP, okay, yeah, probably, I don't know. Groomed to be what exactly? To be an MP? To be a president? To be a senator? Because...
president ni long shot. Those orators, wacha nikwambie kitu moja Kirer, unafaa ujue. There is a reason why Sifuna has been left as SG, despite his somehow divergent thoughts with Raila. Same as Babu Wino, same as Raila. Not Raila, James Orengo. You look at these people, they are needed. But somebody like Orengo, with his current behavior habit, he's not going to last for like a long time. God knows, but so you need, as a political strategist, someone to replace him. You get? That is how they are doing. They want people who are good orators to replace these old goats that are going out. And that is how they're getting, that is how they got these other young men. Morara Kebaso seems like he's out of the race, but I heavily think that is also going to be featuring in this election. So it is not by design that we are seeing the likes of Kina Hanifa, Kina Nani, strategic youth showing up. You see, it's the parties that are actually deciding who is showing up for these things and who is not showing up for these things. And for you to get something like that Mandela Washington scholarship, you guys, it takes a lot of applications. If you've ever tried to apply for them, unaona. If you have ever tried to apply for the Ford Foundation Fellowship, it's also hard. But how comes that the guy just jumped onto it right after that, and he went and he was very well groomed? There is something that is coming. The same way Jomo Kenyatta was taken to Lancaster. He was taken to London and the US, UK, and he was trained in the ways. That has been the way we have created our leadership. That is why we knew Kina KJ were coming. We saw Babuino coming through university. We have been groomed indirectly. Who controls university politics before we went even further? Leaders, the political leaders. I can attest that I saw political leadership of our student bodies running to political leaders, actual MPs, actual members of parliament, members of county assemblies, to give them campaign money. In return, these people, when they finish school, they end up joining their places. For example, you would find one I know went to work in the county office of Machakos, shortly in the US. Another one went to work in the University of Machakos, shortly Australia. And then they come back and now they're telling us they want to go for a seat somewhere. So it is also a path, but also I believe there is also some form of grooming that is coming from political parties. And for you to talk about Trump and the Republicans, he served the purpose. There was no clear Republican to beat Trump by then. And by the time they were going for politics, the US was engulfed in a race war. You get? So the people of the US wanted someone who was going to say that our country belongs to us. And that is exactly what Trump presented. This second time, the promises that Joe gave to take Trump home did not happen, because it is the same thing that happened post-2020 in a lot of jurisdictions. The economy tanked. So whoever came was bound to fail. Let's be honest. If Raila was on the seat right now, the economy would have probably still be tanking. The only difference probably is the scale of tanking, and also probably the scale of how much we as a people are losing through leakages. So the only variation is leakages. But there is nobody who will stand here right now and say that Raila was a better option to what we are experiencing right now, because in a week or so, we will be celebrating 1 year of the marriage between UDA and ODM. So I don't know what you would like to say about that. So basically, as we're also talking about grooming of leaders and all that, it is not by design. And you would realize that people who actually come out without being sponsored, and they're actually genuine, they really get mocked, because the leaders, on top of just grooming leaders, they also groom the people. Yesterday, for example, Maraga alishika camera and then he was doing the train challenge. And you saw people on that quoted tweet, oh, this guy's not gonna get votes. He's on the photo with all his votes. Same thing happened by William Ruto. In fact, a fellow MC who also shares a name like mine, Antonio Sol, was there. He was among the people who actually launched that wheelbarrow propaganda. What did you guys do? Because you have been groomed by the leaders, the people really bought into that. You see, religious grooming will make you believe that anybody who comes in the name of the Lord is holy. And even when evidence is presented that proves to the contrary, you will still want to justify, because I'm a man of God. He's a man of God and he will never do wrong. So I don't know if you're getting the drift, but what I'm trying to say is, if we actually want to talk about political parties changing ideologies, it is deeper than this. And we can almost agree that the population that was thinking that Ruto must go last year is now sowed in doubt because of these simple gimmicks that have been seen here, which means the people have been controlled to react to what their leaders are doing. And they have been tuned to realize that history is in the past. The only thing that matters is today. And if we are being honest, that is the thing that many of us are fighting against, a change of mentality. It has to come from the leaders, and for the future leaders, the ones that John was trying to say, that we need to change leadership across the divide. When they told us that, I believed that John also meant that whenever we go out there to vote, may we be voting for people who think like us. Clearly, when a member of a Kericho, mtu wa Kericho, akitoka kwenye ametoka, watu 10 waende wasimamishe wheelbarrow katikati ya city yao, that should tell you exactly that, yes, our leaders are thieves, our leaders are bad, but where do we stand here? You get? Where do we stand here? So clearly, we have been tuned into a society where if you get an opportunity, you keep quiet. I was just talking with a couple of friends earlier, and we're talking about one lady called Mercy. Mercy could not get off television for the goodness of me. Mpaka kadai nywele ikakuwa white for the goodness of me. Could you please tell me where this lady is? And why has she disappeared? Tafakari hayo.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, Home Run with Pippi.
You're listening to Home Run with Pippi. Kirer, I saw your hand up.
Pippi.
Yes.
I've heard you metusomea sana, but it's okay. Pippi, you know, we are the
Guy.
problems. I know that. And me, I've been talking about it forever. We are the weakest link because, you know, make it make sense. Now, we have leaders on the ground, Paulo. We have, and who votes them in? You know, these MPs, they just came out and said that they've been doing bidding of the president. You know, these are our MPs. And there's this thing called kosa ni kurudia kosa. Kosa sio kufanya kosa, is kurudia, to repeat the same mistake. And I can bet here that most of those MPs that are bidding for the executive, they will go back, you know. They'll go back to the presidency, you know. And the cycle goes on and on. And as much as we want to blame these people also, there's a part of me, and hata ukiongea hivyo inatuguza both, because we are also guilty as charged. These are the people that we pick. And I think 2027, the mind change or mindset that I have personally is, I will vote for someone with integrity. My one vote will go to them, hata tukipata kura tano, and I will be, you know, my consciousness will be, you know, I will be okay with that, you know. I don't want to go and vote popular candidate because that's the one that is supposed almost going to win. I'm not doing that. So me, I think Kenyans need to change their mindset. It's high time. 2027, we should see some change. After a lot that has happened since 2024, if there is no evident change, even if it's not 2027, but we need to see like a shift, you know, of culture, of this culture, you know, of voting in someone because you are bribed and all that. If there's no shift in 2027, mental fatigue again will lapse in. I don't expect people like Maraga to win, honestly, realistically, but we want to see at least that change. You know, there has to be some change in the voting pattern. But if the change is not there, as will be evident tomorrow people hapa tutakuwa tukiongea mambo ya regarding kwa hizi spaces zote, the impact, hivi naona billboard zimewekwa. Diamond, how much is a billboard pale Nairobi? Ile billboard kubwa yenye inakuanga pale, how much does it cost? Roughly,
I don't know,
maybe.
but it should be something about $10,000, I think. I'm not very sure, but it should be
It's
around.
always about 1.5 million. Yani imewekwa hapo
Yeah,
to welcome this
somewhere
guy.
there.
And it's not one, ziko kila mahali, you know. And I find it so difficult, you know, to accept the fact that despite what happened, people were killed, people came out, civic education, there is very little to show for it, you know, and this breaks our heart pretty sometimes. And that's why I respect you people for hosting these cases. How do you cope? Because sometimes you can think that people are there is a mindset coming, even if it's not 2027, but there's a, you know, we expect some, you know, there's a projection of people going to change them, but it's not happening, people. And the one thing people are not talking about is always ourselves. What part do we play in bad leadership? You know, it's very rare. You have spaces like those ones, people rarely show up, you know. What part do we play, like in the corruption, for example? We are people who always, you know, who push for this thing. We are part of it. These people, they're one. We are one from the same cloth. These are our brothers. These are our fathers who are in this position. And we don't want to talk about it. We want to talk about it collectively, running away from blame. We want to run away from that blame. Immediately we own up. Every Kenyan owns up and decides, no, I'm voting for the kids, my kids. Look at Kenya now. We are in 2025. In the next 25 years, but kama Ruto watakuwa kwa wheelchair, unaget? In the next 25 years, people, our kids will be your age. Will be your age mate. People, my kids will be your age mate. You see? So when we are fighting, when we're talking these things sometimes, we are talking about, yes, people on that folder, where people unafaa kuanza saa hii ndio usiende shule alafu watoto wakutoroke waseme nivuka. Anyway, so my point is, you see, we are looking at a future whereby these politicians making decisions now, they will not be in that future. That is what hurts the most. And the faster people realize that you can lose and win at the same time, your conscience will be clear. You voted for someone, you lost because people are not ready for them, but that was the right thing to do. When you reach that level of reasoning, people, I think by now we'll be talking about investment and a lot of things different from politics. Thank you, people.
Haya, Diamond, huyu jamaa ameniambia eti watoto wake watakuwa age mate wangu. Unajua umesound kama wale ma Gen Z wale millennials wanasema, I was once a Gen Z.
Pipi, my daughter is 5 years old.
There's a question you
In the
had
next
asked me.
25 years atakuwa 30.
Yes.
Wait, chapunjia bado. Umemaliza kupresent. There's a question you had asked me when I was off. I don't know. Would you mind repeating ama umeshasahau and you moved on?
Nilikuwa move on, lakini nakumbuka it was in the ways of parties and if the ideology change is needed, na ndo nikaenda onto that rant as well to just remind to talk about also what our role is as well.
Do you think our parties, especially political parties in Kenya, have any ideology? They are tools to capture power. They don't have any ideology.
Uhuru Ruto, tano tena.
Yes, and I actually heard Kirer saying that the ODM is the oldest party. Yes, it is, but not the oldest, because we still have Kano surviving. We still have Ford Kenya surviving. We have most of them. We have most of those parties. We still have NAK Kenya surviving. We have, but obviously surviving in their deathbed. The thing is, even ODM, if it would have captured power, I can tell you without blinking, it could have also gone down. It's just because these are tools that are used to capture power. ODM has not been able to capture power. So it keeps trying. And I think they figured out their best way into power is handshakes. So that's what they've done since 2017 all the way. I think the only time they didn't manage to get an handshake was between 2013 and 2017. They had a lot of belief that in 2017 they would have won the election. So at that period in time, they didn't go for any handshake. But all that period, they're either in an handshake or some form of broad-based or any other thing. So it's not like it is set up on a basis of anything away from capturing power. So there is no ideology. Ours is a moral problem. It's a big moral problem. And even the checks and balances that we put in place, they are not delivering. What is my prayer? My hope is in the next dispensation that comes after 2027, and I'll repeat this so many times, I just hope we will have a better parliament. Not that it will fix corruption. No. And I cut it off to the head of parliament at that point. If we have a good speaker of the National Assembly, it will take away a good percentage of our problems. Parliament is where our moral decay is sitting. And it's at the head. When you have the wrong speaker, funny decisions. And I would remind you, if you are old enough, when Marende was the Speaker of the National Assembly, It had some resemblance of a parliament. It had times when actually they made decisions that would be stamped. There are places where they failed, but I would still give it one of the best parliaments that we've ever had because they had the right speaker sitting there. All the rest, I don't know. I also think Ole Kaparo might have been good, but I don't have a lot of history about him. But the Marende one was better. Hii ya Muturi sasa na hii ya Wetangula, I think that's where we have failed. We can actually have an executive that is not okay, but if they keep getting checked by parliament, even to the smallest link, if you have a parliament that can even just reject one bill from the executive, just one, it actually takes them into their senses. Hii yetu bwana inaitwa conveyor belt, doesn't work. So I think our issues lie in parliament. They lie there, in that house. The executive has its own problems. And Jabonji, I don't know, would we get the type of leader that you are looking at? Who we would vote for and say this one has integrity? I don't know. Do such people exist? I think, especially in the political class, it's very difficult. Just like a lady saying, I want to join. Wanasemanga aje, Pipi. There are these ladies who write down a very long list of the man they want. Man with a car, man with ABCD. Those things don't really exist. They exist in the abstract world. I think what we need is a person who is close to what you want. Maybe we'll get them. But a perfect human being, hata Mungu aundiangi watu mtu kama huyo. They don't exist. Thank you, Pepe.
You see, Diamonds, my issue is, that fulfillment that you voted the best candidate and you are content with the fact that they did not win. When we reach that level, then I think we will say that, we're headed somewhere. I don't want to see a case whereby Diamonds that we have two horse race only. It's either this evil or lesser evil. I mean, I'm not looking for perfection either, Diamonds, but what I'm saying is if there's that mind shift, mindset shift towards a better ground, and then we can say, at least 1 million Kenyans, they are conscious, they reach the inner self and say, this guy is correct. However, they also knew that it's very difficult for him to win, but wakasema, we are okay with that. We are making progress. Let's stay there. That is what I'm talking about, Diamond.
Okay. I also don't know then. As you say, I also don't know how that would help. For example, if we keep voting for people who will not actually take power, for us to just feel good, and then we end up with the type of leaders that we have today. You see, we still suffer. We really suffer because of the wrong leaders. So imagine if all of us would be here saying, at least I voted for someone that did not become president, or I voted for someone who never went into parliament. I don't know. Yes, you would probably feel better, but for me, I wouldn't, because at the end of the day, I want someone who will make a bit of change. If I vote for people just so that I feel better that they have lost, me sasa sijui. I don't know. Taponji, me, I'm of a different opinion. I would rather vote for someone who I'm very sure at least he has a chance of winning, instead of just pulling any other human being for them to fail so that I feel better about it. Because I do not believe in perfection. Even the one that you are saying you'll vote for him so that he can lose, I don't know. Those people are the same. Even if they win, they would probably be the same.
But don't you think? That hypothesis. 1 second. See, Diamonds. That hypothesis is favoring you because you just want to vote. You want to identify with a winner, whether they are good or not. You want to identify with that external validation. But why don't you do it for yourself? It's not that you are celebrating that you lost. No. Look at it on the other way around. You celebrate the fact that you identify with someone who is supposed to make a change, but unfortunately they did not win. So when the other side comes to power, they might as well want to resonate with you. And the people on the ground or the civilians or Kenya, they will say, okay, we voted for this guy, but actually they are doing us bad. So what's the alternative? So we can start having that discussion. That is what I mean, Diamond. So it's positive long term, but if we keep going for this short term, tutaumia too in the vicious cycles. That's what I wanted to say.
Haya, naona kuna engineer, kuna Kirer, lakini pia kama unataka kutujoin, naona it's 3 minutes past 9. We still have 1 hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP, the home of your most valuable social conversation.
Nimebakisha 3 hours birthday yangu ishe, lakini unaweza weka kitu pale hivi kwenye tip line ili uweze kuwa umenitip siku ya birthday yangu. Wewe.
Ladies and gentlemen, join Home Run with PP every weekday from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. only on X Spaces. Home Run with PP, the home of your most valuable social conversations.
Kirer, I saw your hand up. Talk to me.
Now, Diamond, I foresee a situation whereby your problems will never end if you're looking for the right person. Your problems will never end because that's a hit and miss. Come on, 50% of marriages end up in divorce. Were they the wrong people? Now, that is very intimate. That's not even political. Use that perspective. So you have a 50% chance of getting it right or wrong in marriage itself. What about politics? So forget it. Forget people. Why can't we put this weight on the institutions itself? Whoever the president is, whoever the MP is, whoever the senator is, whoever the governor is, the system works. And by systems in this point, I mean budgeting is based on what level. Probably we're in the county level. The MCAs are working. They are doing their regular oversight as required. The governor is just there for policy purposes, and that is it. Policy and implementation. That is it. The OAG does their work. The presidency is the same. The MP is the same. Everything, basically everything. All the institutions are basically, top of shape, top of form, tick. Now, whoever gets there, even if we get the devil himself there, it will still work because it's no longer about the person that the systems depend on, right? The person has to conform to those systems that are established. So, and I will go for the systems or the institutions. I want to not go for the person. I don't care who gets in there. Diamond, you can be my president tomorrow, and I know things will still work. You are not going to burn things over the place. It's going to work. Do I really trust you? Okay. That's a subject for another discussion. But yeah, that is basically, the rationale behind what I'm thinking, right? It's not about the person, it's about the system. Forget about the people. Thank you.
I think you didn't get my point. I was responding to what Jabonji had said, and his statement was that he's looking for someone who does not have history of having done any mistake, and he would rather vote for someone who does not win, but at least he sleeps knowing that he voted for someone whom, in his own view, was a clean human being. And I was rebattling that statement. I agree with you, we need better institutions. Though these institutions also are supposed to be led by people, but I don't know, there's a thin line between these two. But yeah, if we had better systems, it wouldn't really matter who becomes president, who becomes senator, who becomes MP.
But Diamond, ask him, don't we have better systems now?
They look like they are good in paper.
No, Diamonds, we have or no better systems which are not being followed.
We don't have better systems.
I disagree on that point.
Exactly.
I think we have very robust systems. I think the issue is the people who are in the systems. I think they do not know how much power they hold, or are placed there and are not really good people, or they have blackmail material against them. I think we have very robust. I think the new constitution is very robust. That is what I think. I don't know.
Yeah, let me double down. I know PP amekasirika hataki nini, but engineer.
Ongea, mi niko sawa.
Okay,
Mi
so
niko sawa. Niko nyumbani, I'm
engineer,
holiday.
what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to tell Diamond is, it took us a rogue president to realize that easy karatasi anasema these structures and all these policies, they don't work. It takes a president who actually is good and who wants change. And actually a good president can use some authority here and there for the benefit of Kenyans. That is what we are talking about, the motive of the president. But here we have a president who is taking advantage of all those loopholes in the constitution, which is contravening or going against to do what favors him, you know. So if you're talking about policies that work without caring about who the president is, they might as well go there and start doing what this president is doing, you know, kidnappings and all that. Then who will you blame? Again, you will blame the structure and the system. That is what we are avoiding, Diamonds. I don't know if it makes sense now.
I also think that even if we were to change the policies, we need the people in the legislature and the people involved to be very, very serious about changing it. But you know, they can't change something that they benefit from directly. So I think that your theory that we need good people in power is very correct. And I also think that theory that that people who are, that we should not vote for people who are they don't seem that they are going to win. I think that is a very, very powerful propaganda weapon for people in power, because all they have to do is to infect the discourse with, you know, this person cannot win. But why are you following this person? This person cannot win. So I think that is what I think.
So unasema watu wanafanyiwa ile, si ndio? Nilikuwa nawaambia that people are trained to think that hey, this kind of person akijipresent this way hawezi. So for example, if you are looking for a political seat and you, for example, don't have money, utasikia tu watu wakisema nini, huyu ataweza kweli ama itakuwa ni tunaurusha kura. Saizi mmesikia watu hataki kuvutia Maraga, except naona Japonje amehold fast. You see those people who used to be plastic fans, wale walikuwa wanataka tu kusema wako na yeye for retweets, naone kama wataitwa kwa saidi ile ingine, wameanza kusema eti sasa kama atapata kura 6 mimi siwezi mpigia na pia mtu mwenye ana win.
But PP, if everybody has the same mindset as mine, then of course he will win. That is what I'm trying to say. But are people ready?
That is the point.
Yes. Are people
Change
ready?
of mindset.
Yes.
People are still bought into that political cocoon of the majority wins. Let's go to the majority side. You see, that is the problem we have to fight with right now. Changing people's perspectives.
Yeah, because people don't want to identify as losers. Ukiuliza watu kama Mali hapa ama watu ODM, they've been losing. They've been losing elections kuanzia sijui lini, But does it make it any worse? I mean, what's the difference, you know? So again, mindset, people, mindset. Let people change the mindset. If everybody thinks the same, then huyo mtu atapata tu kura and he will win. But hii mambo ya kungojea Rigathi kesho achukue watu wote walipe kila mtu 1,000, then they show up tomorrow and then people say, you see, Rigathi is going to win. Then just because of the crowd, then you want to vote in Rigathi. Man,
yes,
this is not
yes.
what this is. Yeah,
I want to agree with you. Yeah, I want to agree with you. Perception really matters in politics. And I think that is the whole reason you will pay a fake crowd to cheer, because it looks good on camera. And because there's someone somewhere who will not see through the charade and see that this is false. There are people who will sit back and say, you know what, this person is really loved and is really popular and is really powerful. Perception is all that matters in politics. And I think that what is happening now, especially to Maraga, you know, is even his following is very, very small. You can say it's very, very small. I don't want to say that. I don't want to pretend like he's not facing very, very serious odds. But he's facing very, very serious odds. But he has a substantial following, which is very ideological and which is very strong. And even if it is very fringe, it is very powerful in terms of speaking out, and it can influence other people. And I think that the only way to crush him is to say, this person cannot win. There's no way he can win. He's not very strong and all of that. But that is not true. But I also think that the other problem we are facing is our media, the way they analyze politics. And they analyze it by tribalism and say, this region. They of course they don't use Kalenjin, for example, but they can use just the Rift Valley region, and it is just a euphemism for the same thing. And the way they try to cut our country into pieces like that is that they shape a perception. So, for example, if me, I'm a person who is leaning more to Maraga, and they say, in Rift Valley, William Ruto is going to win by 98%. That is what the statistics says. It's not really true, what they are saying, but it shapes the perception on the ground. And I think that is something that we also have to confront. We have to change the way our media analyzes politics before we can even go somewhere. That is what I'm thinking.
Okay, I see Western Shilaho has joined us. How are you doing, Western?
Peter Moge, how are you doing?
I am well. I hope you are as well.
Keeping well, thank you so much. Peter, the Constitution is not enough. It's not enough to ensure governance. It's not. You see, when people talk about institutions, they're not talking about parliament or the executive or the judiciary. At a superficial level, those are institutions. But institutions are usually patterns of behavior in a given society. Patterns of behavior, very predictable. And that's why if somebody gets into power as your president, you can to a large degree predict how this person will act and behave. Even if this person is from a different political party, is it replacing somebody else? Because once you get into power, you let go of your partisan party politics and conduct affairs of the state in accord with set norms and traditions. How do you tell that these are set norms and traditions? When somebody says something, and it doesn't matter where you go, if you go to Kwale, you go to Turkana, you go to Mandera, somebody will tell you, that's a Kenyan way of talking. We don't talk like that in Kenya. We don't behave like that. Like across the board, people know when you step out of line. And then there'll be condemnation across the board. We don't have that. You listen to any politician saying the most egregious things. There'll be people who will be praising him, and there'll be people who will be condemning him. There'll be Kenyans who will be defending him, there'll be Kenyans who will be condemning him. But norms, values, cultures, if you want to understand, take it away from the state, put it in a community. There are shared cultures, shared language, shared traditions. Those things are usually not written anywhere in a piece of paper. But people in that community know what it means to behave civilly and what it means to behave primitively. And there are usually consequences. If you behave in a manner that is considered abominable, they will not pull out a constitution to read chapter what. But people know. They are born in that society and socialized properly. They know, no, I've stepped out of line. I must wait for punishment. I must wait for sanction. On a larger scale as Kenyans, we don't have that. Those are things that usually, enhance social cohesion. This sense of nationhood. That sense does not come out of the Constitution. It comes out of things that are not written in the Constitution, but which people know. This is how to behave. Look at other countries where, this is an example. Where you hear, okay, there was a stampede in a stadium. Now we have Chan and CAF is telling the Kenyan government, no, look, we're afraid that the security is not up to scratch. Something awful could happen. Which is it? A stampede could happen. If just fans could storm into a stadium, that's potentially catastrophic. Now, in another society, if there was a stampede in a stadium, the Minister of Sports will resign. They're not going to resign because they were in charge of the management of security at the stadium. They'll resign because, as a Minister of Sport, nobody should lose their lives while going to a football match. That's not why you are appointed to that position. So you take accountability morally and politically. You resign. It's shameful. Those are norms. Those are institutions. We don't have them. In our case, somebody will tell you, no, Minister of Sports will be issuing threats. Who was in charge of security at that stadium? Where is the organizing committee? They will be passing blame. That's why you don't. There's an accident, people lose lives, you go home as Minister of Transport. Because no one should lose their lives on the road or while traveling by train. Norms, institutions, traditions. With us, we go to the Constitution. No, it's not the Constitution, really. In fact, the things that help societies move forward are usually things that are not written anywhere. Often, you're not going to find those things anywhere. But people know in that society what it means to be a responsible person, what it means to define yourself outside of the norm. And therefore, you are a deviant. You're an outlier. You could be punished, you could be warned. The other thing about this Wamunyoro thing, Peter, when you find time and you listen to people who worked with Moi, these things are there on YouTube. They share with you very, very fascinating stuff. I've heard that in politics, perception is everything. But it depends to what effect are you out to drive a particular perception. Kimani Ngunjiri, there's a politician in Kenya called Kimani Ngunjiri. He used to be Moi's right-hand man, Nakuru politics. So the other day he says, Moi told them that when Matiba is coming home back to Kenya from London, where he had been hospitalized,
Western, hello?
Are we losing Western?
Yeah.
Pipi, can you hear Western?
No, hata mimi
1992
simsikia.
elections.
Western, we lost you when you are talking about Lee Kenyanjui, the personal assistant for Moi, who was talking about Matiba. Please,
No,
you can
Kimani
resume from there.
From the faction that Matiba now ended up leading. And then they split that Ford thing. Ford Asili for Matiba, then Ford Kenya for Jaramogi. So Jaramogi, before Matiba came...
Pipi, I think Western cannot hear us. Western, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, Japoch.
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you when you're talking about Lee Kenyanjui. I don't know.
No,
The Moi's assistant.
it was Kimani Ngunjiri, yeah. From that part.
Start from there.
Oh, you lost me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Start from there, please.
Okay. Kimani Ngunjiri, this veteran politician, has been around the corner for quite some time. So he used to be Moi's right-hand man in Nakuru, Kanu politics. He was on radio the other day saying he was young and Moi could even visit him in his house and take tea and whatever. So he said Moi's politics was very fascinating. He would even shock them how you could even think like that. So before Matiba came back to Kenya from London, it was a given that Jaramogi would win the presidency as the joint presidential candidate for Ford, which was the opposition party at that time, a pressure group to an opposition party. But then Moi surprised them from nowhere. When there was word that Matiba was arriving back to Kenya at the airport, he told them, you KANU members, mobilize yourselves and go to the airport in Nairobi and welcome Matiba as the president in waiting. You know, this must be such a huge crowd that every other Kenyan who sees that on TV and all over newspapers, and this is the president in waiting, that even Moi has succumbed to the pressure. He's just waiting to hand over power to Matiba. But Moi, intention was to divide the opposition. That was the intention, to ensure that Jaramogi remains with this section of Ford and the Matiba goes away with the other one. And that came to pass. It came to pass that when elections were held, there were two factions of Ford, affiliated to Jaramogi and affiliated to Matiba. As they say, the rest is history. So it's always like the image, the crowd you're seeing. What is the picture? What is the subtext? That's important than just that there's a crowd. What is the picture? Actually, your rival could actually manipulate your own politics if you're not aware. Can manipulate it. So that somebody arrives at the airport and there's a huge crowd, that in and of itself says nothing. It says absolutely nothing. It could actually have the opposite effect within the political formation in which that person belongs. It could actually be counterproductive. So that this person, now Wamunyoro says, no, I am the bona fide joint presidential candidate. And Kalonzo says, okay, if that's what you say, I'm joining Ruto. Let's see how this goes. You say because of the crowd, people who welcomed you, every other person must look for smaller positions. You are the, presidential candidate because you have got numbers, and we can see from the crowd that welcomed you at the airport. Okay. The rest say, okay, if you have no space, what do we do? Alonso says, this person is too junior to me. He just came into politics the other day. Why would I support him? No. So don't read too much in crowds. They may mean very, very little or nothing at all. As they say, one day in politics is one day too many. And I'm saying, among us, these politicians we have, a politician who studied Daniel Moi very closely, and that's why Daniel Moi didn't agree with him. A student is so good at studying their teacher, such that the teacher is so annoyed with the student. How dare you study me so well and understand me? It's William Ruto. That's why he didn't get along with Moi, because he studied Moi closely and he understood Moi. Why Moi thought the way he did. The rest, no, with them it was Baba. He's going to appoint me to the cabinet. He will do what? But this one here was reading Moi very closely. What is he doing? How is he checkmating his opponents? How is he remaining a step ahead of his opponent? He was very good at that. If you read literature on where our politics is coming from. Japonj and Diamond, I don't know whether he's here. Look, it's not about Maraga. Like, Maraga, you would be failing yourself if you gave any politician a blank check. That this is it. Fill in the amount of money. No, we do that in Kenya. No. That's not how to do politics. This is a blank check, Maraga. Fill in the amount. He's going to fill in zeros from here to Timkut. Are you going to pay him that money? Why would you give him a blank check? You just keep on adding a zero. Will you pay him that money? You can't. So you're not in the business of giving people blank checks in politics. This is how it works. And that's why our electoral body, it must be ready to conduct elections at any given time. At any given time. There should be nothing like the electoral body can only be ready to conduct elections after 5 years. Even after we have had elections, this electoral body should be ready to conduct elections 6 months later, 1 year later, as many elections as there's demand for them. So that if Maraga is your candidate, this is what you should tell him. You may tell him to his face, or you may just keep it to yourself. You may vote for him, but you'll tell him, soon after you've sworn in and I realize you're not the candidate I thought you were, I'll be the first one to push that you get out of power. I will push that you get out of power. This is not a blank check. So my friendship with you, if you may call it in quotes, my support for you is predicated to your fulfilling that raft of issues that I ask you to. If you don't, I'll be the first one to agitate that you get out of power. And therefore, we don't have this notion of a snap election in Kenya. Snap election. This is an election that is not in any calendar, but you can call it at any given time. If you as a president, you think that you don't have the mandate from the people, you want to renew it, you call for a snap election. And you go back to the people. If they give you a fresh mandate, then you can execute your agenda. But you don't know, no, the House is divided. Like now, Parliament and the executive, if they cannot get along, in other jurisdictions, you dissolve Parliament, you dissolve the Senate, both of them. And you ask those people to go home and seek fresh mandate. So if you're popular in your constituency, let's see whether people vote for you and then come back. If you've been serving them, let's see, come back. No, they will not do it. They cannot do it because it's too risky. If you don't know your politics well, it could sweep out everybody else. So Maraga, Pepita and Japon is actually part of the establishment. Some of us don't know that. He's part of the establishment. The establishment is, if you have ever held a top position, top position in government, you're part of the establishment. And the establishment, consolidates, defends itself, protects itself. So you can't convince anybody in any given society if you rise through the ranks of the judiciary to the apex as the Chief Justice that you're not part of the establishment. You are. You're part of the establishment. So people who look at you as a change agent, you just must look for what is this iota of, radical thinking in this particular individual. How radically oriented is this person from the members of the establishment? You look for that. You look for it. Because annulling an election, is that what you do? If you don't annul an election where there's evidence that this election should be annulled, you're corrupt. You're just corrupt. If you annul an election because there's evidence to do that, you have not done anybody any favor. That's what you're expected to do. That's not revolutionary. At the very least, you're expected to do that as a jurist. If you don't do it, you're taking bribes. So that's not revolution. So what has he done? In terms of, he's thinking from the mainstream. What has he done? Thinking from the, because I'm asking this question, because he was part of the judiciary under Daniel Moi. And the judiciary under Daniel Moi was integral to the one-party dictatorship, for those who don't know. You cannot jail people over trumped-up charges if you don't capture the judiciary. You can't. You must capture the judiciary so that your opponents, dissidents are arrested. They're very fast passed through the motions in the corridors of so-called justice, and then they're locked up. That is it. Where was he? I don't know. Where was he at that time? Where was he? Where was he serving? Was he a lawyer? Okay, if he was a lawyer, because sometimes you cross over from the bar to the bench, sometimes vice versa. So if he was an attorney, what kind of an attorney was he? What kind of clients was he representing in courts? He was an attorney. If at that time he was not part of the judiciary. And if he was part of the judiciary, what was his legal philosophy at that time? What was it like? These are pertinent questions that we don't ask. So if you get somebody like that in power and you realize that the status quo remains, why would you be surprised? Why? You shouldn't be surprised. You should not. Because the judiciary is the foremost conservative institution in any given country. Foremost conservative. The judiciary is never radical. Never. Not in the US, not in Kenya, not in Britain. It's never conservative. It's the foremost reactionary institution. You know why? Because it's where people solve things to do with property rights. Property rights. Where things to do with power are resolved in the judiciary. And usually it tends to lean towards those who are powerful and those who are moneyed in most cases. Because if they don't do that, they will also process themselves out of those positions. The political elite will turn against them. So if you're radical as a judge of the Supreme Court in Kenya, for instance, the president could just form a tribunal to investigate you, your suitability to continue serving on the Supreme Court or on the bench. And he could put in that tribunal user-friendly people who will actually find you unsuitable, continue serving. So for self-preservation, you tend to lean towards the establishment. Yes, you do that. And that's what Trump has done in the US. He's completely turned the US Supreme Court to be a conservative institution. Of course, there are a few people, but it's very conservative. It's thinking like Trump and the Republicans. Very conservative, not radical. So Maraga, if you don't know his philosophy, is likely to be conservative and reactionary. Yes, so he's not going to radically overhaul the Kenyan political, economic, and social architecture because it has served him so well up to where he is. He's got a pension. So if he became a president, icing on the cake, even if I serve for 5 years and they vote me out, what else do I need? I mean, I'm self-actualized. I've been the president of the judiciary. Now I'm president of the Republic of Kenya. Even if I do 5 years, history will have it that I served as the president of the Republic of Kenya. So he has very little or nothing to lose. I think you must have a president who has got something to lose. You must. And they're prepared to lose that. But if you have a president who has nothing to lose, no. Yeah, the extent to which they can, stick out their neck for you, very minimal. I can tell you, very minimal. They will not stick out their neck for you because the things you're complaining about, they have never experienced those things. Things have been well for them. They were good under Moi, good under Moi Kibaki, good under Uhuru Kenyatta, good under William Ruto. So you who is complaining, clearly you occupy a different world from their world. And therefore, it's difficult for them to relate to your world. The mere fact that you're all living in Kenya, you all have Kenyan citizenship, doesn't mean you occupy the same world. That's not the case. They occupy a totally different world. And therefore, that's what I would invite us to reflect on. And this has nothing to do with, casting aspersions on Maraga's, capacity to be president or not. But I'm afraid he's part of the establishment. He's actually like William Ruto, if I may put it.
I have a question.
Yes. Is it engineer?
Yes, it's me. I have a question. Okay, so I think what I'm getting from what you are saying is that we cannot properly assess the psychology of a person who has been there before. And I think I once read a quote by someone, I think it was Maya Angelou, who said that under a dictatorship, all the good people are either dead or in exile. So going back to Moi's time, because he did not go to exile or he was dead, meaning at some level he was complicit or either a coward. So I'm asking, is there any person in that generation who we can say that he is tolerable to be in that position of power? Or do you think we are just stuck in a system where the status quo will always remain no matter what we do?
You see, engineer, power is like it's like you smash and grab it. You don't meet at table and discuss. You smash it and grab. You know, if you've ever seen, I'm going to use a very cynical example. If you've ever seen in videos, or if it's unfortunate you've seen it in person, somebody takes a brick and knocks a car window and takes whatever valuables that are there. Very cynical. I'm afraid that's how power is. You smash and grab. You don't go around shopping for people to give power to. You don't. Because historically, the people you go shopping to give power to, actually, when they will be looking for people to execute, you'll be the first on the queue. You who went around knocking on their doors. Like, there's power here. Could you please come and give it to you? They will execute.
2 minutes to land.
So you don't do that. You don't give power to people. But I agree with you that the Moi era did a psychological damage to people who are there. It did. Big damage. The thing about psychological damage is that you don't notice. So you say you are working normally, but you are not. People can tell how you're behaving. First, you don't question authority. You don't deviate from the norm. You tend to, gravitate towards the establishment. So engineer, I'm afraid you're almost correct. If you pick anybody who was of age and was working under the system, Moi particularly, that 24-year law regime system, no, they're not likely to think differently. I can tell you for free. And therefore, you'll get more of the same. If you pick somebody from that era, you will. It's only that you're waiting to see, but actually you'll pick more of the same. Because how have they been socialized? That's a long period of time. That's how they were socialized. You don't challenge authority. You don't challenge, the establishment, especially if it's working for you. So if youthful people are challenging the establishment, do not have a candidate. Yeah, really, it doesn't look good. It does not look good. It does not look good. If you, as a mob, as a movement, you define yourselves as this, radical movement, but you don't have a candidate. It's like navigating without the controls. You don't have a compass, so you don't know where you're going. It's that simple. So without a candidate, no, you get more of the same, engineer. That's my take. It couldn't.
Another question, if you'll allow me, Peter, I want to ask another question. My question is, when you are saying that I agree with you that those people have been socialized differently, and I think that is the generational difference. I want to understand, what do you think is their thinking in terms of, when people talk about William Ruto, the way he uses the security agencies, I wonder if he's thinking of using security agencies is that it is right, or it is his right, and he's doing so in defense of national security, and what he's doing is right, and it's legal, not legal as such, but he makes sense of it in some way, one way or another, that it is moral in a twisted way. And I also want to ask you is, if you are saying that the current movement that is, I think there's a movement in Kenya that of people who want to change the country for the better, at least. I think, what do you think about, my thinking is that the psychology of anyone who will purport to be a leader of such a movement, most of the time will be just a parasitic person who is narcissistic and who will maintain the status quo, even if he or she is not of the generation that you have said. So what do you think?
Engineer, you resort to the use of instruments of coercion because that's what the security agencies are. You know, the police, the army, the intelligence, the courts. The courts are part of the institutions of coercion, if you don't know. Actually, when you talk about the state having a monopoly of instruments of coercion, Max Weber, the courts are part of that. The courts are what the state uses to intimidate people. So next time you hear somebody telling you, oh, the courts are pro-people, no, they're not persuasive. You do that when you don't have popular support. That's usually your last line of defense, when you don't have popular support. So the clearest indication that a leader is struggling when it comes to popular support is the evocation of the security apparatus, the repressive state apparatus, that's what they are called, to suppress, to intimidate, and to have their way. So it's an indication that also democracy on a great scale, it's not working. It's not working. So you may be a democracy nominally, but in reality, you betray elements of dictatorship. But you are not going to see it because they sprinkle in elections, sprinkle in by-elections, sprinkle in things like the rule of law. So you don't see the nakedness of the dictatorship, as opposed to where the constitution has been suspended. You just know this one is full-blown dictatorship. But this one is insidious, the one we're talking about here. I agree with you that, yes, you are not, you also run a risk, even if you got somebody who is much younger. Because for those who are younger, Moi inculcated the thinking through the education system. That's why Moi was very hands-on when it came to education. One thing people didn't know was that was a tool of control, a tool of control. So he built schools, he visited schools, he spoiled students, and he could stop by the roadside and address students because he knew the education system, which is what they call an ideological state apparatus. The other one was repressive. This is ideological, the education sector. So you dictate what children are taught in schools. What kind of a mind do you want them to have at the time they graduate? So you have these people who finish school, but they're not really questioning you a lot. They don't question you. You want that. Moi succeeded in doing that. And that is the greatest destruction that Moi ever visited our education sector. That this thing
1 minute to learn.
Peter, this thing people talk about critical thinking, Moi completely destroyed it. That one. He ensured that Kenyan children, when they enter school and leave at the other end of the pipe, they are conservative and they think like their parents and they want to be part of the government. And when you get in government, you make more money. It's a job that is secure. And so you become part of the establishment. So that is it. So you're likely to get a younger person in terms of age, but with an old frame of mind, just like the one of senior citizens. That's the challenge, engineer. It is. And that's why Pipitas are yield. If also you were to get a president who will focus on the education sector in Kenya, like you just dedicate on the education sector in Kenya, you want to turn it around. Not because of skills, not because of, I don't know, a theory, that is superficial conversation. You just want the education in Kenya to do what education is supposed to do, to produce rigorous graduates. That person would have contributed a lot towards the progress and development of the country. Forget about building roads and rail lines and airports, the mindset. Because these are the people you need if you have to move a country forward. You need a population that is critical. But it could work against you if you don't act in accord with the social contract. They'll get you out of power. So you conscientize them, at the same time, work in their interest. Then you are safe. You conscientize them, you work against them, they run you out of town. I yield, Pipita.
I see Red Hand Republican has joined us. I think he's going to be our last speaker for the day. Red Hand Republican, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Peter, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I want to speak, although not so much. First, I want to make one issue clear that David Maraga was not a judge during Moi's regime. David Maraga was an advocate during Moi's regime. As a matter of fact, David Maraga joined the judiciary in 2003 after being appointed by Mwai Kibaki into the High Court. I want to make that clear so that people don't assume that Maraga was a judge or a magistrate during Moi's time. Secondly, I also want to say that when Maraga was a chairman of the Rift Valley Law Society in 1989, he was 38 years old. Right now he's 74. So when we say that Maraga did not do anything to fight Moi, are we also saying that anybody currently who is between the ages of 18 and 38 today has no chance of ever being president in future, even when they are 80 or 85? Right? People do things for their careers. People work. Maraga, when he went to study law, when he went to university to study law, he knew very well he's studying law under a country governed by President Moi. All our parents and grandparents who went to school and learned all their courses, whether it's medicine or law or engineering or anything, they went to school knowing the president is Moi. They did not go to school planning to graduate and become activists. All right, everybody is thinking about their career when they're young. So let us not conflate issues and claim that anybody who did not fight Moi does not deserve to run for any seat. He was 38 years old. He's now 74. Maraga has also been open about his issues, the issues that he had in his younger life with alcoholism. He has been very open about that over the years. He said he was an alcoholic. He was always drinking. It messed up his life. He had to quit alcohol and focus on his career. And that's why he rose from the position in High Court all the way to Supreme Court Justice, because he got his life together. People change. Life is not a straight line, okay? People change. I know right now, Pepita is here on the studio talking, but in 40 years, I don't know what position Pepita will want to run for office for. Therefore, I will not say in 40 years, why didn't Pepita get shot by police during the demonstrations against William Ruto? I will not ask Japunji the same thing. I will not ask Engineer Abel the same thing. I will not ask Weston the same thing. And I will not ask myself the same thing. Because everybody is dealing with their careers and their life at this current moment in time. So let us not conflate issues. We also know Moi Kibaki was vice president under Moi. We know his famous statement as vice president that multi-party politics will never work in Kenya, but he was the first president in a truly democratic election. And although he had his faults, he also had his successes, and we enjoy his successes to date. Therefore, we are not seeking angels, we are seeking solutions. Fourthly, I want to say that saying that Maraga, because he annulled the election, it's not something to congratulate, is actually hypocritical, because at the same time, we're always saying that Justice William Mutunga allowed a fraud election to take place and allowed a candidate to win by stealing the votes. And we condemn him for that every day. Anytime he speaks up, people say, don't talk to us. You allowed Uhuru Kenyatta to win the 2013 election by stealing votes. But on the other hand, when another Chief Justice comes in and does the opposite, does something while under immense pressure. We all remember police going to the Supreme Court, trying to block the roads so that cases are not heard, especially when they found out through the intelligence that Maraga was going to annul that election. We all remember the intimidation that was happening. So to say on one hand that William Mutunga is a sellout, and then on the other hand say that Maraga did nothing, that it was his job, is also shooting ourselves in the foot. Moving on from that, I want to talk about corruption as my last point. I want to say that as much as I've had certain speakers say that we need to change the institutions, I also want to let you know that an institution is not a person. An institution is not a person. Even if you elect Maraga as president, Omtata as deputy president, you have the best speakers, the best governors that you can get. Remember that the civil service is made up of 1 million civil servants and state officers. William Ruto has no idea what a huduma officer in Turkana is doing at this very moment in time. He has no idea. And even if he did, there are 1 million other civil servants that he would have to track. This space currently has around, at this moment in time, this space has around what? Around 34 people. I could go through all the names right now in my head and try to memorize, but I can assure you by tomorrow morning, I'll only remember 10. So you can imagine a president having to track 1 million civil servants. Institutions are made up of civil servants. So you might say that you want working institutions, but it is the people in those institutions that you need to worry about. Because right now, Pipita said he's turning, I think, 32 or 33. I know of many civil servants. Umesema miaka ngapi? 31, 30.
Wewe nimesema 30 bwana, unaenda hadi 33. Wewe miaka 3 mbele.
Tuseme 30. I know of many civil servants who are between the ages of 25 and 30 at this moment in time. And I know 90% of them are corrupt, right? So even if we are removing the old generation and this new generation is coming in, that generation still finds itself inside the same corrupt institutions. Not because the institution itself is corrupt. An institution cannot speak. Right now, I cannot ask KRA a question and the building responds to me. It is the people in that building who will have to craft those emails and respond. It is them who will ask for bribes. It is them who will ask for kickbacks. It is not the building, it is not the institution on paper as a legal entity that is corrupt. It is the people in those institutions that are corrupt. And we're talking about parastatals. We are talking about what do you call it? We're talking about schools. We're talking about state offices. We're talking about parliament. We're talking about the Senate. We're talking about governors and senators. And we're talking about MCAs. We're also talking about ambassadors and all those people. All of them, they're all under the three arms of government. And each arm of government, even the judiciary itself, there's so many judges who get kickbacks and everything. The judiciary itself as an institution cannot be corrupt because the judiciary itself is only a being because of the law, but it cannot speak, it cannot eat. All right. So when we are talking about changing institutions, we must remember that we are not talking about coloring a building from black to green. We're not talking about changing a computer system. Even the IFMI system itself came into being because we wanted to stop corruption. But it is human input that goes into that IFMI system. The e-citizen system itself was to end corruption, but there's still corruption happening there because it is human input that goes in it. So before we talk about changing institutions and talking about we need to have good institutions, we must ask ourselves, who are the people who are being hired by these institutions? We might say as well that in the next election, we want to get rid of all the MPs and all the senators and bring in fresh MPs and fresh senators. For me, that can't also work in itself because who will teach these new MPs? Who will teach Pipita about standing orders? Who will teach if everybody in that parliament is new? Who will teach them about standing orders? Who will teach them about forming committees? Who will teach them about their roles in parliament? There has to be the old guard as well. You may find the best of the old guard to help you out, but you cannot have a totally fresh parliament or a totally fresh Senate. Therefore, seeking angels in itself may actually lead to the collapse of the country because you have people there who don't even know what their job is. They don't even know where the parliament toilet is. Watu wataanza sasa kutafuta mahali choo iko. So we must also think about some things when we talk. How are we going to change this country? In my personal opinion, the only way to change this country is through political parties. And by political parties, I don't mean this nonsense that we've been doing in this country, where the political party is created by the leader who wants to run for president. All right, get that right. In this country, the political parties are created by the candidate who wants to run for president. Right? DCP, there's nobody anywhere. There are no people who met together and decided to form DCP and then invited Gachagua to be their party leader. It is Gachagua himself who went out there to form that party. Same thing with ODM, same thing with Jubilee, same thing with DAP-K, same thing with Wiper, same thing with ODM, same thing with all those parties. It is these political leaders who think I need to take a stab at the presidency. They go and form their parties. And how do you know this? You find out that you know this because of how these political parties are funded. Does ODM collect member fees from the members? I'm not talking about parliamentary members. I'm talking about any individual here on this space who is a member of ODM. Have you ever paid any membership fees, even 20 shillings, to ODM? That is how you know that is not your party. Because a political party is run by its members. It is the members themselves who pay membership fees to fund the party. As happens in the UK.
But one second, red hand, sorry, red hand. But there's a Political Parties Act whereby ODM got 250 million for this financial year. What about that?
They got 250 million because of the number of members they have in parliament. That's why Wiper got less money than ODM. Isn't that correct? What about the members that are not in? Like say today, DCP right now, Let's say DCP runs and doesn't get a single member. Where will they get money from? Let's say they run and they don't get a single MP. Let's not even talk about DCP. Let's talk about PNU that had 48 members of parliament in 2007, right? And got their share from the national government after the election. Where are they now? Where are they getting the funding from? Nowhere. Because PNU was basically Mwai Kibaki creating a party to win an election. If it was funded by members, if PNU was funded by members, PNU would still be in existence today, because PNU would have funded, because that money that was funded by members like me and you and all other people in this space and all other Kenyans would be enough to run party primaries. Like if you were to ask yourself, the ODM party primaries, where does this money come from? Does it come from the people? The people in Luo Nyanza, in Coast, in Northeastern, in Western, in Rift Valley, in Nairobi? Did it come from them, or did it come from the owners of that party? Therefore, my submission is this: to change this country, as you well know, that to remove an MP, and I've said this before in this space, to remove an MP, there are many ways you can do it. One is by recalling. The best way is to remove that MP as a member of your party. If you remove an MP as a member of your party, you don't even need to collect signatures to recall the MP. Once he's struck out from the list of party members, a by-election must happen. So if people made their own parties, if say Western today got together with a couple of like-minded individuals and formed their party, Pipita did the same and made his own party. Japonji and all other Kenyans all around the country, people started actually forming their own parties and funding their parties through membership fees. What would that mean? That would mean like a party like UDA right now, if it was owned by Kenyans who are members of UDA, who pay membership fees, not the way it is now, where it is the president who made the party. People would have recalled all these UDA MPs as one. Secondly, they didn't even have to recall. They just meet, tungekutana baraza to say, you know what, we are striking out these 100 MPs from the UDA. And right now we'd be having a by-election in 100 constituencies. We wouldn't have to wait for the judiciary to say the parliament has to be dissolved. ODM as well. People would just recall all those MPs or strike them off from the party list. But you currently don't have that power. Why? Because you're waiting for Maraga to go there, form a party, and then come to you and tell you, nipigieni, hii ndio chama yangu. That's why Western is saying, rightly so, that if you give him a blank check, he's going to add so many zeros. Because it's his party. It will be his party. You've not contributed a single cent. Therefore, how will you be able to go there and start telling Maraga, Maraga, you promised us this, and you're not doing it? We kazi yako ni kumtumia 20 bob for your whatever fundraising yake. You're sending money to him, not to a political party that you have. Because if you had that political party and you're paying membership fees and you invite Maraga to be your candidate, you own him. And even if he becomes president, and you can't, even by removing a president, you can't remove him from presidency. That is the one shortfall of that system. But any member of parliament who was coming on Maraga's ticket for that party, or that party itself, you can recall and tell Maraga, you know what, if you don't do this, we are going to strike off all these MPs from this party of ours. Usidhani tumekupigia kura ati sasa you will go to parliament and do what you want. And that is also the way you change institutions, as I learned. That's the way you also change institutions. Because right now, you have a situation where every single parastatal in this country and every single independent institution, like EACC and all those things, and NCIC, they are all corrupt, right? Right now, you just tell the president, you know what, Mr. President, what are you doing about KCC? He brings you stories. Sijui is going to build a committee. You tell him, you know what, we are going to strike off all these members from our UDA party that we own, that we registered, that we pay membership fees, that we called you to run on it. We are going to strike off all these MPs from that party list, and we are going to have a by-election. When he hears that, what will he do? First thing he'll realize is, I'm going to lose my power in parliament because my members are serious. My members who are Kenyans, who are out there, they're not even in parliament, are going to strike off all my MPs. I can't allow this. Therefore, he'll have to strengthen EACC, he'll have to strengthen NIS, he'll have to strengthen the police, he'll have to do all these things. But if you sit here waiting for institutions to change by themselves because you want to give them a new name, at the KRA has been so bad. Let's stop from calling it Kenya Revenue Authority. Let's call it Kenya Revenue Service. Oh, the police force has been so brutal. Let's stop calling it Kenya Police Force. Let's call it Kenya Police Service, because service sounds better than force. Service means they are going to serve us. But force means they're going to come with force and beat us. Therefore, if we change it to service, the people who come in there will read the word service, and now the police will no longer be brutal because they know this is a service. How has that worked out for you? So, kindly, as I learned, final statement, make your own parties, own them, pay membership fees. Stop sending Hanifa 30 million shillings to save Gen Zs in hospitals and then forget about all of it, and then come here and say you're waiting for a change. It means you have 30 million. Registering a political party is 600,000. How many political parties are those? 30 million divided by 600,000. Those are what? 50 political parties. In other words, last year, Kenyans, that 30 million would have formed 50 political parties owned by all those Kenyans. And now we would not be talking about ODM or UDA or Jubilee or all these parties. We'll be talking about our own parties, looking for our own candidates, and they would know that if you dare betray us, we are going to strike you off that list and there will be a by-election. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you very much, Bwana Red Hand Republican. I see Japonji is still here with us, and Western, I would like us to end it. It's already 10 minutes past 10 East African time. Still my birthday. Kwani hamtaki hata nikuwe na 1 hour ya birthday talk. If you like what I'm doing, of course, there is that birthday gift, Tip Line, for today's special one for my birthday. And of course, you will hear people like the likes of Red Hand Republican trying to add years to my life, saying I'm 33 years. They will say I'm 35. Do not hear them.
Peter.
Yeah. So, well, let me finish with the call to action. So, kindly, pale hivi kwenye birthday gift, you can drop me anything in the multiples of that, even 1,500, 30 bob, 90 bob, 190 c multiple of that, just to mark that day. Nimeona Nyasamia ameniwekea 3,000. Sasa nyinyi mnaweza cheza kama nyinyi. Western.
Peter,
Pipi, 1 second. Sorry, Pipi. Before Western comes in, can I ask him a question and I give him my minutes because I'm not able to talk again. Okay. So Western, as you come in, I wanted to ask you something. There is this battle between the parliamentarians or MPs or legislators. So they want to impeach the president. That is what they are thinking along those lines. And on the other side, the president is also thinking about dissolving the parliament. So what works where? Because as we stand here, we know that the president has no power over the legislature. I mean, unless he dissolves the parliament, there is no way he can impeach them, but the parliamentarians can impeach him. So which way forward as you come in? That's all for me today. So all my time goes to you. Thank you, Pipi.
Okay, don't make it 1 hour, man. Let's make it at less than 10 so I can end the night.
Peter, my simple response to your point is that impeachment provision in the Constitution was not meant to settle political scores. You, as a Kenyan, you will have a problem with that, with a member of parliament who wants to impeach a president because they've been called out. That's selfishness. Just an extension of the selfishness we're talking about. So you only invoke the law when your own selfish interests are at stake, or in this case, when you think you've been painted in a bad light. That can't be how democracy is supposed to work. You do the right thing in furtherance of the collective well-being. So MPs who are thinking along those lines are just being selfish. And you think they will succeed? How will they succeed? Because you're not advancing the collective well-being. You're being cynical. So the Constitution is something you can manipulate for your own self-serving ends. You just can't do the right thing. If the president you think has violated the law, why don't you bring up an impeachment motion? But you bring it up because he's called you out. So he can do anything and everything against the people of Kenya. You only get concerned when it's you who's affected. Why would you even listen to people like those? And that they're making nonsense of the Constitution. It was not meant to be used to settle parochial concerns and interests. Pipita, you see, what Red Hand wants to tell him is that we have got the Mau Mau motif in Kenya, where people who never fought for the country ended up holding power. And that has been the case in perpetuity. And that's why it's important to establish the person you consider to be a potential president, their background. You have to dig their background. It's important. Lest you end up with home guards who succeeded the Mau Mau, and then it makes nonsense of your liberation, your so-called of freedom. It's important. But that's what we learn when we are shortchanged. What didn't we do right? So it's not like you're being overly critical of a particular political individual when you want to find out where this person is coming from. Because failure to do that in the past has landed you in a difficult situation. So background is important. The other thing is, if you want to see and find out whether you're doing well, let me put it crudely. If you want to find out how tall you are, juxtapose yourself against a taller person, not a shorter person. So you'll feel good about yourself when you use a low base. So if you're a judge and you compare yourself to another judge who ruled on a matter so shabbily, you of course will feel good about yourself. But why can't you look at another ruling that is so philosophically rigorous that could even challenge yours? It's like in a classroom, a student telling you that I'm better than the other one because I attend classes without fail. The other one, banks classes, so I'm a better student. No. Your responsibility as a student is to attend classes. So the other one who is not attending classes is an outlier. So you're not better than them because you attend classes. Are you? You're not. So that juxtaposition about the ruling of 2013 and 2017, the 2013 ruling does not paint the 2017 ruling in a better light. That's the point I'm making. Because the other ruling...
Weston, can I ask you a question? Let me ask you one question. Sorry, Pipita.
Yes, red light.
It's red hand, but anyway, okay, I'll take it. I'll actually change it to red light. It sounds better. Since we've had bad presidents, if a president comes in and does nothing else but follow the Constitution to the letter and do his work as prescribed by the Constitution, wouldn't we be able to say that that is the best president we've ever had?
Yeah, we will say that because of the comparison. Because of the comparison. You're comparing them with his predecessors who had no regard for the rule of law. But he would not have done anything out of the ordinary. For that's what they swear to do. If you listen to their oath of office, they swear to uphold, defend the Constitution. So failure to do that, electing not to do that, you're an outlier. You should go to jail or impeached. So if you are elected as a president, you do exactly that which you sought to do. Clearly, you have not done any Kenyan a favor. You've done exactly what you're morally, legally obliged to do. That is it. Just, you've done the bare minimum. That is it. Just bare minimum. You've not gone out of your way to do anything else. So that's what you're expected to do. So nobody should celebrate you. We say, yeah, you adhere to the rule of law. Yeah, so simple as that. So Pipita, what I'm saying is, we talk a lot about angels. There are no angels in politics and even in life. What actually we should strive for, Japonj, Pipita, and everyone, is to be real. Just be real. Even in your imperfections, be real in your imperfections. Don't try to hide your imperfections and pass for someone else. Those are credible people. You know, you are flawed as a human being, but you don't run away from your flaws. You own them up. And you don't set out to deliberately offend people. When you offend people, it's because you're a flawed human being and you didn't know that what you're doing genuinely will hurt someone. So you own up. But we have got people in positions of power who are not real. And therefore they don't own up the decisions they make. They don't own up when they hurt people. They don't own up when they steal money. They don't own up when things go haywire, things that shouldn't be working. So don't look for an angel. That one doesn't exist. Don't look for a perfect person. But look, is this leader real? Are they real? Are they authentic? That's what it is. Are they authentic? They're not a masquerade. They're not putting on a mask. What you see is what you get. Now, if you have those kind of people in positions of responsibility, you'll move as opposed to looking for perfect people or angels. They don't exist. Human beings are imperfect. But the distinction between credible people and less credible or devious people is that credible people own up their imperfections and their shortcomings, and they strive to be better people. But inauthentic people deny that they didn't offend you. They didn't say something obnoxious. It is you who is just coming up with your own things. You can't move with those kind of people because they are plastic and wooden. That's the point I'm making. So Pipita, as I yield, I'm telling a red hand until he changes to red light, that our failure to scrutinize Mwai Kibaki landed us into problems. Which ones are these? That Kanu history of his, it didn't go anywhere. It continued to project itself in his politics. Like Moi, he stonewalled the realization of the new constitution until violence happened. Like Moi, there was a lot of corruption under his government. Like Moi, he was inclined towards ethnic politics. All those things, and you can go on and on. So that history of his, it didn't go anywhere. It defined his politics. But the thing about our society, Pipita and Japonj, is that we tend to lay great premium on tangible things. Tangible things. I can see a road here. I can see a railway line there. I can see a tall building here. I can see GDP figures in the World Bank. And those things, they matter in and of themselves. But within the broader scheme of things, those things don't matter. As a leader, it's always about people. Always about people. If you're creating wealth and this wealth is not reflective in people's lives, who is benefiting from your wealth? If you're building houses railway lines and roads, whereas your society is divided along ethnic lines. People are fighting using machetes. Like, that's catastrophic failure. Catastrophic failure. So we tend to put a lot of weight on peripheral things and completely minimize what counts, human life. If under your watch as a president, your country almost dissolved into civil war, that is the foremost thing in your legacy. It doesn't matter. The economy grew at what percentage? It doesn't matter how many jobs you created. That people turned against one another violently. That is your legacy. And then, red hand, you say, we're still enjoying Moi Kibaki's good deeds today. Let me put it to you, red hand. Do you know that this William Ruto that you complain about, and many other people, was in Moi Kibaki's succession designs after 2007 elections? Do you know that? This William Ruto. Yes, he was. That Moi Kibaki crafted his succession in such a way that he had to ensure that he separates William Ruto from Raila Odinga, which would make it difficult for Raila Odinga to be elected in 2013. And then Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto will form a pact, the coalition of the accused. With Uhuru Kenyatta's ascendancy into the presidency, William Ruto was a heartbeat away from the apex office in the land. Heartbeat away. Those designs began under Moi Kibaki. You don't know that. So if you've got problems with William Ruto, you can see his pathway to the presidency, taking shape under Moi Kibaki. Moi Kibaki's second term into office. That's when William Ruto's pathway to the presidency started taking shape. So, which good things are you enjoying? Well, unless you can't connect the dots, but they are there. Without Moi Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta would not have been president. And without Uhuru Kenyatta becoming president, William Ruto's chances of becoming president would have been almost nil. We can celebrate him, but we can only celebrate him through revisionism and cherry picking our history. Otherwise, if you were to write Kenya's history, and there's a chapter that is soaked in blood, Moi Kibaki features there quite prominently. You can't escape it. Soaked in corruption, it features quite prominently. You can't erase it. Soaked in divisive ethnic politics, it features in that chapter quite prominently. You cannot wish that away. It is there, documented. I yield, Pepita, yield.
All right, thank you, Weston, and of course for everybody else who found time to be here with us from around 6 p.m. up until now. I'd like to take my break for the show tonight. We'll be back here on tomorrow for yet another home run with PP as well. And also remember, we have a Friday night special. We will be having a flipped show. So I will be going for that Kasarani game. Of course, Kenya is in the quarterfinals, and home run with PP has to represent from inside the stadium. So yes, I'll be giving you live updates from inside the stadium. And of course, yote tisa kumi ni kwamba HRWP is supported by you, the listener. Never forget that, and also go into that tip jar line whenever you can, wherever you can. You don't have to just support us when you're here. You can also support us even offshore as well. For now, mine is to wish you a great night, a great day ahead, and let us have this conversation tomorrow. Ikiwa kwamba kesho ni Wellness Thursdays. Let's get that, and also as you've heard from Jabunji and the rest of my team when you anafanya fact checking, we are also expecting the one and only Rigathi Gachagua to touch down anytime in Kenya. So we'll also have that drama unfold as well. So many things to catch up on. See you tomorrow for normal home run with PP, and also get ready for Friday home run with PP 10 p.m. all the way to midnight or beyond. So bye-bye and be safe, guys. Bye.